church bells ring.
I think.
Okay. Here we are, and you see the date, and we're here today to continue the next in the series of the Mishbucha tapes. We have with us today Helen Solomon on the right, and Esther Goldstein, née Solomon, on the left. And we'll be asking a number of questions about the history of the Solomon family, going back as far as we can, and taking a look at some pictures and documents. Doing the interviewing will be myself, Gary Solomon, née Solomon, and Lori Solomon Hess, née Solomon, not Hess. Okay. Hello, Aunt Esther.
Hello, Gary.
Hello, Aunt Helen.
Hi.
We'll start, if we can, by I think asking one or the other of you questions, and then you don't have to leave it to one or the other. Just jump in if you have something that needs to be said, or a memory that comes back to you that the other one doesn't remember. And Helen, let's start with you if we can. Can you tell us, we'll start, I guess, just with you, and then we'll work our way backwards. Tell us where you were born, when you were born, and to whose parents you were born. No, your parents. Just tell us their name. Why don't we just start with that?
Okay. I was born June 15, 1918 in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't remember where, just the street or anything that I was born at. I was born at home, and
I was just going to ask you about hospitals, so you were...
No, I was born at home.
Excuse me. Am I allowed to interrupt?
No, I'm sorry. We have to stop the tape now. No, sure, of course.
I think that you were born, in fact, I'm pretty sure, off Woodland on 62nd Street.
I got pretty close back there because I've been working there for over 30 years. At 64th in Woodland.
Something drawing you back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Esther. Okay, go ahead.
And then my parents were Regina and Jake Solomon. And I don't
Were you born, did you have a midwife?
Grandma had a midwife for myself and for my brother, for Mort.
Mort, yeah.
But she had a doctor for Esther. You could tell the difference.
They could afford it for the first one, but after that...
The first, yeah.
You could tell that, you could say you could tell, is that it?
Yeah. And that's, that should answer your questions so far.
Okay, so far. Now let's talk a little bit about your parents. Well, let's go, and Esther, let's talk about you. When were you born, and where were you born?
Okay, I was born December 26, 1915.
Do you know where?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. I remember yours because
you were there.
I was there.
You were there for this one, but you weren't.
I was there too, but I
Okay.
Were you born in a hospital or?
No, I was born at home, and there was a doctor in attendance. And I think it was around, what's the name of that street? Which is now a completely changed street. Down on Woodland, oh yes, I think around 30th and Woodland, that's where, down, around 30th and Woodland.
Was this an apartment or a house?
It was a house. It was a house.
Did Grandma and Grandpa own the house?
No. No, they lived there. They rented.
Okay. And they rented it, this also was a house where Aunt Helen was born?
Yeah.
And that was rented as well?
That's right.
Okay.
My parents were Jake and Regina Solomon, and
okay,
we were foreign people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to... Let's talk about them, if we can, individually. We'll start out with one and work our way back. Let's start with Grandpa Jake, first of all, your father. Tell me what you know of his beginnings, where he came from, and anything you might know of even his parents. Let's start with him. Where did he come from, and when was he born?
He came from a place called Marmaris,
in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
in what is now Czechoslovakia, and what
Right.
was then Serbia? Is that right?
No.
It was
Was it Yugoslavia?
it had a two name.
Austria-Hungary.
Austria-Hungary.
Austro-Hungary.
Austria-Hungary.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
But when he was born,
I understood that he was born in 1882, 10 years before.
1882 is absolutely right.
Okay. And,
Oh, that's right, because, yeah,
and his birthday?
It was April 1st or 2nd.
for April 1st.
April 1st. Okay. Okay. And okay, do you know anything? Do you remember anything he told you about his town or his family?
He was born on the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains, he always told us. And his father was a mayor of this little town that he was born in.
And it was called what again?
What, his father?
No, the town's name?
Marmarush. And they call it the Horp. It must be a section. I don't know what the Horp means.
Well,
but
what a horp means is like a, what do you call it? Not in English, I can't think of the name.
Let's see.
On your back, hunchback.
Okay.
See, the hunchback is, so it might have been maybe in a mountainous, where something
Or a hill
looks
or
like
something
a
in-
hill,
okay,
that's right.
okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So this is, we don't know too much about his mother. I'm named after his mother, so.
Whoa, okay. What was his
Helen.
father's name?
Father's name was Mendel, and your dad was named after.
Right.
After my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And so he,
He was the mayor. So was he a politician, or could he have been a part-time politician? And
Yeah,
had a job?
probably so, because I think this was all farm country and
Right.
woods. There were a lot of woods around there, because Grandpa used to talk about the bears and you kids heard these stories that he used to tell about the wild animals around there. So this is just...
So really, all you know then of his father is that he was mayor of this town.
Yeah.
He might have been a farm. He might have been in farming too, because I doubt that would be a full-time.
Yeah, that's what I was
job
thinking.
in
Yeah.
a small town.
But that impressed
Tell me he was
Yeah.
also an educated man?
He was a very educated man, and none of his children were educated,
And
which is...
Do you know how he came to be educated at all? Was he college educated, you think, or just studied?
I doubt.
I don't know.
Do you think that this was a Jewish type of town, or was this a mixed town that he was in? Was it like a ghetto, a Jewish ghetto type of thing? Or do you have any
I
idea?
don't have any idea about
Okay.
that. I don't have any idea about
No.
that. And we did have a picture of him, which we don't have anymore. We had a picture in an oval frame of him, a beautiful picture.
Describe him as you remember it.
Well, he had a rather long, dark beard. He wasn't. The picture. He wasn't too old. He I don't know if he. Yes, he wore a hat, like
Yes,
a
he wore
fedora,
a hat.
a fedora hat in the picture, and he had a real kind face.
Do we have any? Can we come to get some sort of conclusion about his date of birth or close to it? Do we have any way of? Do you know, for instance, when that picture was taken, or did Grandpa ever tell you how old he was when he left, or some such thing that we can get a handle on his age?
No way.
Or time?
I don't really think that there was.
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Grandpa's mother then. You said you don't know too much about her.
We know very little about her. I think she passed away before Grandpa came to this country.
I think so.
And they must have had about 5 or 6 children. Grandpa had one sister, I think, and the rest of them were all males.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many of these do we know of?
we only have met 2.
Do we know the names of?
Yeah, Uncle Louis, and of course Grandpa.
Okay.
Right. And
That's
then there
right.
was
Do you know
a
what- do you
third
know any
one
other
that
names?
came here.
Yeah.
As it was, he had a brother Joe and a brother Sam, like my mother did.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Grandpa had a brother Joe and a brother Sam. Okay.
yeah. Now we don't. One of them, and I don't know which one, came to America before Grandpa did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but we were never in touch with him. He went to Middlefield, Ohio, and when Grandpa came to America, he joined him and they were in basket manufacturing, and he worked, not that his brother didn't own it, but they worked at this place.
Okay.
His brother did get married. He married a Gentile girl.
This is,
That we
which
know.
brother are we talking about now?
I don't know what
This
his
is the one-
name was, the one that came to America
Okay,
first.
Yeah.
okay.
So his
And-
name's either Joe or Sam? Is that-
Well, he had three, I think he had another brother,
Oh,
so I don't
or
know.
unknown.
Didn't they then move to Lima?
Well, let's
No,
okay.
yeah,
Let's not get too far ahead here. Well, I want to get
Oh,
into all
all
that,
right.
but let's stay in the old country as long as we can and make
Okay.
sure we've got everything
Yeah.
talked about there. So we've not talked about this one sister either, which you think.
The one sister we don't know too much about, except that she was the one, isn't she the
died.
one, wait a minute, isn't she the one that's either Shmuel's mother or Ignaz's mother? That married, oh no,
I don't think so. Because she died rather young, didn't she? Her
His
name was
sister?
Bessie, I think.
Did she come to this country?
no,
No.
Okay, so she never
Bessie,
did.
wasn't that her name?
I don't
Bess-
remember.
I think
I
her
don't
name was
remember.
Bessie, but I think she died rather young.
Okay.
I think so.
I don't know
No?
about her. I don't really know too much about
That's
her.
all that I really remember about her.
So the first one to come to the States then was he the oldest? Do you
I think he might have been the oldest.
Okay, and we're not sure what his name was.
No.
Okay. And then Grandpa came.
After him.
Okay. Do you
Not
know what?
too long
Do you know when Grandpa came to this country? You have an idea? Do you know how old he was? We can figure out the dates then.
Well, he must, well, let's see, I know he was 10 years older than Grandma, but,
How old was he when they got married? Grandma
wait
was...
a minute, 31 years old. Grandma was 21,
Okay.
and he was 31 when they got
And
married.
they got married how long after they got?
Not too long, maybe a year, not even, maybe.
Okay, so then we're talking about, he was 31, so it would have been 1892, 18 years, and then 12,
1882. He was born in
yeah, so it would have been about 1912, no, what was that, 18, yeah, 1912, 1913, around that.
Yeah,
So he
she was
probably
born
came
in
over around
'Cause I was born in 1915.
Okay, so probably around 1912 or so he came over then. Do you remember his description of the trip, of what he went through and all that?
He and Grandma came on the same ship. It was called the, the ship
See,
was
I
called
have my book
the,
in there.
You have it written down
I don't
somewhere?
remember
Yeah.
the name.
On that.
And that book, I just
Oh.
didn't.
well, anyway, they
Okay.
come on the same ship.
Yeah, but not knowing each other.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay. And do you remember? Did he ever describe to you what it was like, how he, came to leave, what the reasons for leaving were, such things?
Was that because he didn't want to go into the service?
I remember him saying that to me.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to go into the service, and
Yeah.
he would have been drafted or however.
World War I was beginning to approach.
World War I was big, yeah, right.
In
was
fact, it started in that area of
It
the world.
started in 17. Oh, it started in that area, yeah.
In
Yeah.
14 even, or 15, it was early.
14.
14, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so he saw perhaps things
Yeah.
were not getting good, and he wanted to not to be in part of the draft.
Right.
Going on.
Yeah.
So he saw an opportunity to come to the United States.
That's right.
And you don't know how he got,
Not how he
where,
got his visa,
where did he get, yeah.
or how he got the money to come
Where
here.
did you know where the ship came from? Did it come from England, or did it come from?
Through Italy somehow. Through
Okay.
Italy.
Through the Mediterranean,
They both did
perhaps?
the same thing.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
They both
Right,
did the same.
that's right.
And do you remember some descriptions he might have had of the ship coming over, other than whales swallowing it?
No, he didn't. I don't think he said too much about that. They mentioned, when they got here at Ellis Island and that type of thing. They were kind of.
So they came to New York
They
and
came
were
to New
processed
York.
through Ellis Island like so many other
That's
immigrants.
correct. That's correct.
And let's talk about staying with Grandpa now. Did he immediately find a place in New York? Did he immediately come to where his brother was?
He immediately came to his brother.
So he stopped
Yeah.
only in New York briefly and then continued on to Middlefield?
That's
that what-
right. Was that where he was? Yes, he was in
so.
Middlefield.
So he must have taken a train or something.
Probably so.
Okay. And, okay, now he he got to Middlefield and went to work, did you say, with his
In a
brother?
basket
weaving factory.
Okay. And in Middlefield, Ohio.
Right.
And he was still single at this time. Hadn't
Oh, yes.
even met Grandma, although they were
No,
on the
not
same
yet.
trip.
No, right.
And then do you know how long he was in Middlefield and how long he did? What was the next step?
I don't. Then he came to Cleveland to. Well, Grandma's mother had a roomer living with them, and he was a cousin, a relative of Grandpa's.
Okay.
I don't know, and he fixed Grandma and Grandpa up. So he brought him here.
So he
from
knew about his cousin in Cleveland from here, and that's
and
kind
then
of.
he came here, and
Okay.
that's how he met Grandma.
Okay, well, let's leave Grandpa there then right now,
In the
and let's go back to
middle.
Grandma
Okay.
and see what we know about her beginnings.
Shit, I'm trying to remember.
That's all right. Lori said she has that on the thing,
Oh, do
so
you?
when you.
Okay.
You
So-
know, I keep thinking it rhymes with paranoia. I don't know.
Paranoid. Yeah, it does.
Sequoia, perhaps. Well, it's all right. We don't need to talk about that now. Can you tell me where Grandma was born?
Yeah, she was born in what they call Ilok in Yugoslavia. Also Austria-Hungary at that time. I
I thought you told me Croatia.
Well, she was Croatian. I mean, it was, or maybe right at that time when she was born, it was. She spoke Serbian. She spoke Croatian too. But I
She
think
also spoke Hungarian.
No, Grandma never spoke. I mean, Mom never spoke Hungarian. I think she understood it, but she never spoke.
Well, all right. I thought
Okay.
she did. I thought she spoke.
Anyway, we were on the way here, or where are we?
Oh, no, we're back. We're in Grandma's
Okay, a little town of Elok. It was a little farm town. Her father was much, much older than her mother.
Okay.
In fact, he had grown children.
He was her uncle.
He was her
He was
uncle.
Grandma's
All right.
uncle.
Well, yeah. Well, this can be a confusing story, so we better go through carefully here so we make sure we understand. Grandma's father. Do you know what his name was?
No.
Okay. Actually,
Iron?
it was in the ketubah that we just saw.
Grandma's father
Yeah.
is Aaron.
Yeah.
Aha,
Oh,
right.
all right. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Grandma, Regina Solomon is who we're talking about. I think we mentioned Grandma's
Yeah.
name. And okay, so
Her
Aaron.
name was Ham.
Her maiden name is Handler.
Right. Okay. Which reminds me, I hate to jump back. When Grandpa's family over there, they were not Solomon. That's a story we need to talk about too.
You're right.
Okay. But,
Shlomovitz.
so Shlomovitz was the name of our family before Grandpa came to this country. Okay. And wasn't there some other interesting story about the name when
He changed his name. Adler?
Klein Adler.
Klein Adler.
What's
We don't know why he took the name of Klein Adler. What a nice name.
It was hyphenated. Klein hyphen.
Adler?
Like Solomon Hess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this happened when Grandpa came to this country, and they asked for his name on the books, and he put himself down as
Very
Jacob.
short period of time, though.
Klein Adler.
This is probably when he worked in Middlefield.
Okay.
Because by the time he got here, it was Solomon.
Perhaps when he met up with his relative or something,
Yeah.
his cousin maybe
Possible.
was Solomon.
Possible.
Yeah, I don't know his cousin's name.
Okay.
You know what it was.
Okay, let's go back to Grandma then now. Now Grandma's father's name was Aaron.
Aaron
And his last name?
Handler.
Handler. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know anything? Let's talk about him for a minute. How far back do you know about him? Do you know what he did?
He was a farmer. He was a wealthy farmer. He had a large farm, but he also had like 4 or 5 adult children. And so when
that's all right now.
Story.
Yeah, so he had 4 or 5 adult children now. So that he was married previously to Grandma's mother, yes?
He was married. No.
No, to Grandma.
Okay, so
We're talking about Grandma's husband. Like,
No,
I'm
no.
saying it.
No.
Yeah.
We're talking about Grandma Regina's father.
Father.
Now,
Right.
was he married
Yeah.
before
Yes.
to someone else besides Grandma's mother?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you know anything about this lady or what her name was? Or
I didn't know her name,
No.
but I think Grandma didn't like her very much because every one of the brothers and stepbrothers and sisters that she didn't like, she said they acted like his first wife, that she was a mean lady.
okay. Now, were they divorced?
No, she died.
Okay. All right. So she bore how many children? Do you?
I don't know.
Grandma's half brothers or sisters then?
Oh, there were 4 of them.
There were
That
4.
Your you talk about her.
Yeah, her step.
Yeah,
Well,
4.
her half brothers and
4.
sisters. There were
There
4.
were 4.
And also her stepchildren. 'cause she
Okay, well, we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there were 4 children born to this first marriage of Aaron
Right.
Handler and his first wife.
Yeah.
And boys, girls, do you know who they
Boys.
They're all boys.
All boys. And do you know any names?
Herman Handler. Herman Handler and
Yeah.
his brother, they was in the service.
Wasn't there Leopold?
Leopold and Philip.
Philip? What was the other?
And the one that was in the service made a career in the service. What was his name? He was here in America. He made a career in the service, but I don't remember what his name.
Okay, and all these boys eventually came to the United
Yeah,
States.
all
Okay.
4. Well, no.
Yeah.
Leopold was a mean guy like his mother.
Okay.
Philip was a cripple, and he was a very sweet man.
Uh-huh. But he
Grandma
ma-
liked him very
But
much.
he never made it here either.
Never made it
Okay.
here. Leopold came here and made it big and went back. He took all the money back with him, went back here.
Is that right? And when was this?
Well, this was way before Grandma came here, you know,
Okay.
when she was still growing up.
Yeah.
Because he was much older.
So she living in Europe knew that he came to the United States and then came back
Yeah.
with the money and
Yeah.
everything. Okay, interesting.
What finally happened to him, we don't know.
Okay. Okay, so Aaron and his first wife had 4 boys, and then his first wife passed
Yeah.
away.
Right.
Okay, and then tell me what happened next. He married.
Then his brother, who was Grandma's father,
No.
then his
Wait.
Aaron's brother
Aaron's brother.
was Grandma's father. He was her uncle. She married her uncle.
Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Thank you.
This can't be. This isn't making sense.
No.
No?
Aaron was Grandma's father. You told me.
Aaron was, I'm
No.
mixing up
Aaron
Grandma.
Your
was Grandma's
grandmother's.
uncle.
Aaron was Grandma's uncle. Then he married.
Oh, so we're.
No, wait a minute. No, we're getting mixed up. Wait a minute.
Aaron was your
All right, wait a minute.
My grandma.
All right, hold on a second. Let's fade here. We'll be right back. We'll get the story straight. Just a minute here.
Oh, I'm
Was
sorry to
it?
waste
Sorry.
all this
So I'm
film.
confused now.
I think her first grandma.
Yeah. But it was her mother.
Okay, we're back, and the confusion perhaps was due to not using names and talking about grandmothers, and we weren't sure whose grandmothers we were talking about. So we were left now with Aaron, and the story was correct as we really told it. Who was married to a lady whose name we don't remember, who had 4 boys, and we delineated those boys. And this lady passed away, and that's where we were. Now, this was Regina's father, but before Regina was born. Now, let's go on, take the story from there. Now, what happened next to Aaron?
Aaron, after his
Lost his
first
wife.
wife passed away.
Yes.
Aaron's.
He met another lady who became Regina's
He
mother.
He had a niece
Okay.
whose name was Sarah.
Okay. This was one of his brothers or sisters'
It
children?
was a brother's child.
Do you know anything of, before we go another step, do we know anything of Aaron's brothers or sisters?
No.
We know that this was a niece, but do we know anything about, do you know how many
His
he had?
brother was Sarah's
Father.
That's all I know, that his brother was Sarah's father.
We don't know his name.
Sarah's father's name? No. I
Okay.
don't.
Do you know if there were any other siblings at all? Even if
No, just
There's a
just
boy and a girl
Aaron
from
and
this family.
Sarah's father.
Okay.
And we know he was a very, very devout Jew,
Okay.
extreme Orthodox
Mhm.
Jew. And I think it was what they would call a mitzvah because Aaron's wife had passed away,
Yes.
that he remarry. And and have children. You know, I mean,
Right.
this is very important.
So he had a daughter, and he thought the mitzvah then was to provide a wife for his brother.
For his brother, except that Sarah was going with a little butcher boy at that time.
Okay.
And she was very much in love with him.
Uh-huh.
But he wasn't religious enough for her family.
I see.
And so...
Do you know his name?
Julius? Is it Julius? I'm not too sure.
I
Okay.
don't know what his name
Okay.
was.
Now
Alright.
so they just broke
They had hopes
up.
of marriage, perhaps, but it didn't work out because
Didn't work
her
out
parents.
because their parents wouldn't agree to it and wouldn't allow it, you know, at that time.
Did we know anything of Sarah's mother?
No,
Okay.
I don't remember anything about Sarah's mother.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now let's talk about this mitzvah. So,
So they paired the two up. This
Okay.
old man
mhm.
with this young 20, I think she was like 20 or 21 years
So
old.
she was of marriage age. Now, how old was Aaron at this time? Yeah.
Aaron was a very old man. I mean, we don't know his age, but we do know that Grandma says she remembers an old man with a long white beard. And that's
all
all
really-
she remembers of her father. He was
Yeah.
4 years old when she
How old
was
was her oldest brother? How much older than she? Do you have any idea?
Her
That make
brother,
sense.
Uncle-
Joe was the older.
Oh, Sam was the oldest one, I think.
Do you have some idea of how much older he was than she?
I would think that
Wasn't
he was...
Rose the oldest?
Oh, yes, there was a daughter, too. She had a
sister.
sister. Rose.
So that's the name we
Sister
could.
Rose.
Okay, good.
Which,
Do you know how much older her sister Rose was than she?
She was the oldest. I think she was about 12 years older. 12 years older, I think.
Then Mom?
Because I think
Did you
then
mean
she
of the
says...
half-brothers?
Yeah, I'm talking about from the first marriage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's not
All
jump
right,
in.
where are we
See,
now?
I'm trying to get a handle on how old Aaron was
Oh,
at the time.
so-
If we can come up with some sort of difference in ages. I was going to say 12 years is actually that's one of Grandma's sisters. So we're talking about someone who's much older.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the oldest of all the children from the first marriage.
Children.
Do you have any idea?
Marriage, I have no idea.
No idea.
Perhaps 20 years.
Could be. They were grown. They were
Yeah.
all adults.
Adults. The children
So
were
then
adults.
20 years is probably a good bet.
Because she said that they were older than her. Some of them were older than her mother.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So we know
if
then.
she married at 21.
So maybe 20 or even 30 years old.
Yeah,
So,
could be.
so then her father could easily have been 50 or 60 years old.
Easily. That's
Is that
right.
what we're saying?
Right.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
want to get some sort of handle on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're back to the marriage. Sarah married Aaron, and she was 21 years old at this time.
Right.
And they still lived in the same place, continued on the farm and all.
Right.
The other,
Right.
the other original brothers and sisters probably had left by now, or
Well, Leopold was home for a while, and so was Phil. Phil was the crippled boy, and I don't know if he ever got married, but he was home until Grandma left, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And the others, I think the others came to America.
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay, so who was the first child of this marriage then?
Rose.
Rose was the Grandma's
Rose.
oldest sister then.
Oldest sister was Rose.
Grandma was the youngest.
Okay.
And Grandma was the youngest.
Now, what do we know about Rose?
Rose, well, Rose was married to, what was his name?
Arthur?
No, Rose's oldest son was Arthur. Rose was married to, and her uncle fixed her up with him.
Was his name Aaron too?
No, honey, it wasn't. I would remember, but that wasn't his name. Well, I can't remember his name, but she married this fella that was, see, most of them were like in a religious thing, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was kind of a black sheep
Black sheep.
Okay.
of the family.
Was this marriage in Europe or was it in Europe?
Yes.
Okay.
They never came to it. This Rose never came to America.
Did they have any children?
Yes, they had a child. They had a few children. They had Aaron. Arthur was the first son. Then they had Margaret, a daughter, and I think they had one or two children.
Did any of
8 boys.
Okay. Did any of these children come to the United States?
None of them.
So this whole side of the family remained in Europe, and we really don't know what happened.
No, they were in the
Killed in the
Holocaust.
They were killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah,
You know this
we know
story.
this for
Yeah.
a fact, because somebody that came afterwards
Told us
Yeah.
this had happened. Okay, so now the second child of this marriage was?
The second child of this
Well, you say
marriage
Uncle
was
Sam.
Uncle Sam.
Okay.
And
Sam Handler and...
Sam Handler. And he came to America before Grandma did. So if he came, if she came in 1912, we decided, or
Yeah,
thereabout.
yeah.
Well, he was the first one here.
Okay.
He and Uncle Joe didn't come together,
No,
did they?
but he sent for Uncle Joe not too
Yeah.
long after he came.
Okay, well, let's talk about Sam.
Uncle
Yeah.
Sam came here. He bought a little candy store, and he
Came to Cleveland?
came directly to Cleveland. I don't know why.
I don't know how he
Again,
got
you would almost guess there would be still some relative or friend here that would have drawn him.
probably, but I wouldn't have
Unless
any
it was
idea.
on. Was he married when he came to Cleveland to Aunt Sadie?
Was he married in the old country?
They were
Was he-
married in Europe.
Okay, and he was married to,
Aunt Sadie.
do you know Aunt
Sadie.
Sadie's maiden name by any chance?
Yeah, Hershwitz, I think. No?
Yeah.
Hershowitz.
That's right.
Hershowitz.
Hershkowitz.
Hershkowitz.
Right.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right, and they married then in Europe and then came together.
Right.
To the States.
So it might have been someone from Aunt Sadie's side of the family that brought him
Sure.
here. I don't
Okay,
know.
and around maybe 1808, 9, 10, and that.
Yeah, just about that time.
Okay. And, okay, so he came in, he immediately, as far as you know, started,
Yeah, a
he
little
had some money with him when he came in?
store. Yeah.
And
A
where was
little
the candy store?
On Woodland or Quincy, around that section.
Yeah.
That was a Jewish community at that time.
That's right.
And that's where he opened his little
And do you remember
store.
going to his candy store?
I don't remember.
Did he have it for years? Do you know how long?
No. He had it for a short period of time, and then he opened up a pop factory.
Okay.
Electora Water and Beverage Company. Does anyone
Okay.
want? Tell them I'll call him.
Okay, now he opened a pop factory.
Yes.
Okay, and what was called?
Electora Water and Beverage Company.
Electora?
Electora.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know it.
Ah.
Water, Electora Water and Beverage Company. Okay, and this, where was this company?
It was on Huff Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and they lived in the front of the house. In the front of the house, they had a great big house, and the factory was in the back. And we used to love to go there and have pop.
Yeah.
Oh, they had all kind of and real good. The first chocolate pop I tasted
Yes.
was that he had made.
Is that right?
Made good pop.
And how long did he have the business?
Many years. And then
Some idea?
But then they moved.
They moved
to
from
Hayden.
Huff Avenue.
Well, let's.
to
Do you have some? Can we put some sort of years to this? The candy store then would have been around, say, 1910 for about 2 years, I think, maybe.
That's about it.
So maybe
No
Grandma
longer
came
than
over or
that.
something like that.
What?
Well, you never would have been to the. Did you ever go to the candy store?
No,
so
we didn't.
before
I
your
don't
time.
think he had it when we
Just
were
before your time.
born.
Okay, so it would have been 1910 to 1912 in that ballpark.
Right.
And then he opened up the pop factory,
Pop factory.
around 1912, say.
Yeah.
And he had this until when? Do you have any idea how long?
He had it. Well, he had it until they moved to California, because
No. What about the pop factory on Hayden?
that's what I say. He had the pop
That's what
factory.
we're talking
They
about.
moved to
They
Hayden,
moved, yeah.
and then they moved on 105th across from whatever the name of that street was, right on 105th
Oh,
Street.
yes.
So he moved from where he used to live, but he still had the pop factory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he kept the pop factory. No.
When he moved to Hayden,
Yeah.
he moved the pop factory too.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He moved the pop factory as well.
Yeah,
Where
that
did the
was
pop
in
factory go?
Philadelphia.
Huh?
Where did it? Where?
Also, it was the same setup with the factory being in back and the
And he lived
house in the front.
Okay.
On Hayden Avenue.
He sold to grocery stores, and is that what we're talking about? Or?
I guess
I
so.
think
I don't
so.
really know. I think he did. Sure. He supplied candy stores and grocery stores
Yes,
with
that's
pop.
Now, okay, he went to Hayden. Now, how long? And then he had the pop factory in Hayden until he no longer had the pop factory. Is that right?
Yeah.
But you said
no, he
105th.
moved on 105th near Everett. Across from Everett.
Yeah.
Right where Finkelstein's had their store right
Yes,
there. It
yeah.
was out of a house there,
Now
I think, because
He moved the
lost-
pop factory again.
Yeah, I'll
Third
tell you,
time.
when they had it on Hayden, he took in some partners with him that sort of they...
At beginning of the end, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Some
Right.
problems with the
Yeah, the
partners?
partners created a lot of problems, and I don't know if he went bankrupt, but I know that he lost a lot
That's
there.
right.
Okay.
And then he didn't give up the business. He gave up that business. He closed the Hayden place and opened up a place on 105th
A
Street.
new pop factory, in essence.
Yeah, I don't really remember what he called it or
Okay.
anything, but I
It
don't
was
know.
also a lot smaller.
Yeah,
than
very much
before.
smaller.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so that they had that for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then they picked up their roots and they all moved out to California.
And when was this? Give me a...
All right. It was, Alan was born. How old is Alan? Alan was about 2 years old, or 3
Yeah,
years old at
mhm.
that time. And
Oh,
he's
boy.
about 30, he's older, you're 36?
Mhm.
36, and he's older than Mary. He must be about 40, 41.
Yeah.
So it would have been like 38 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So around
That
1950, would you say, after the war?
After the war.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after the war, they closed their pie factory and they moved to California.
Okay.
They had 2 children,
Okay.
by the way.
Yeah.
They had children. They had 3. They had one that passed away when he was very young. He got poisoned.
Lead.
Lead
Lead
poisoning.
poisoning from a railing.
Okay.
The paint.
What was his name?
I don't know.
He was just a couple years old or something?
Yeah, very young.
What about the other 2 children?
All
Who were
right.
they?
The oldest one was Esther,
Okay.
and
When was she born?
well, she's in her late 70s, or she's late 70s, and she must have been.
Well, she's older than I am.
Mhm.
At least.
So she must have been
I
born
was born
soon after they
in
came
15.
here. They must...
She
Oh,
must
yeah.
have been born about 1912 or
Okay, so
something
it sounds like
that.
right.
Yeah.
It was just a few years after they came
Yeah.
to this country. Okay.
Because she's
And what?
older than I am.
And she's in California now.
Yes, she
Did she marry?
married.
Yeah.
She married a man. His name was Dave Simon.
Mhm.
He was an ex-boxer,
Uh-huh.
and they opened up. She and he opened up a dry cleaning establishment. One of these that catered to the actors and actresses. I mean, it was just that type
In Hollywood,
thing.
or...
In Hollywood,
I see.
yeah. And so they had a lot of well-known people that they did their work for.
Okay.
They had one son,
Okay.
Alan,
Okay.
and Alan.
Oh, this is Sam.
This is Sam's daughter.
Oh, okay. I thought you... Okay. Oh, Alan was their grandson. Then you're talking
Yeah.
about when the factory... That was their grandson when you were talking about it.
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So they had Esther and her... What was his first name?
David.
David Simon.
Yeah.
Had one
Son.
son, and his name was Alan. Okay.
Okay.
And Alan today?
Alan today is an attorney, and he works in California. I don't know, San Diego, I think.
Uh-huh.
And he has 2 sons.
And
One
you know-
is aspiring to be an actor,
No, I
and
don't know.
the other one I'm not too sure of. But the one is now in New York. The one that's going into acting school.
School. Do you know his name?
No, I don't know either one of their
Okay.
names.
Okay.
And that's
That's that.
Yeah.
Now, also, Sam had...
he had his wife's name was Sadie.
Sadie,
My
okay,
aunt
and
Sadie.
And they also had another...
They had a son.
Oh. Okay.
They had the daughter Esther.
Esther and a younger son.
And a son, Artisan.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had the third one who passed.
Yeah. Okay. So the second one was the son, Art Handler.
Art Handler.
Okay.
Correct.
And let's talk about Art
All
Handler.
right. Now, Art Handler married, he worked for his dad for many, many years. He also aspired to be a basketball player and was very, very good. He played in...
He was
very
play
good.
in school and
He played semi-professional.
Semi-professional,
And they
yeah.
wanted to send him to school,
To college.
to college, on a scholarship. He would have gotten on a scholarship for basketball.
And this still was in Cleveland at the time.
Yes.
Okay.
But Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam didn't want him to do that. For some reason or other, he let them talk him out of it. I don't know why he
I
ever
don't
did
know
that.
why.
He
They
never
didn't
went
think it
to
was a proper
college.
vocation, or they didn't want him to go to college?
They didn't want him to do basketball. They didn't think that was the thing for
He should
nice
stay in
Jewish
business.
guy to do.
Yeah.
They wanted, I guess, for him to take over Uncle Sam's busy eventually, but he ended up by just being delivering pot for them, and never really did much with his with
Basketball.
anything.
Okay.
With basketball. Well, he played until not too long ago, actually. Yeah, and so he married a girl by the name of Lena Dushan, and they had one child, a daughter, Barbara, and she. I don't know too much about her.
Did they stay in Cleveland all the time?
They're still in Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, and Barbara married a fellow by the name of their
Daughter.
Lena and Art's daughter, Barbara, married a fellow by the name of Don Eisen, who is a professor of, I don't remember what he's a professor at some college in Pennsylvania,
And she lives in Pennsylvania.
and they live in Pennsylvania. They have
They have
one
children?
son,
Okay.
and his name is Sam.
Okay.
And his major was Russian, and he's now in California, I understand. That's what Lena told me. And he's been to Russia a few times. He speaks Russian fluently, and I don't know just what he wants to do with it, whether he's going to translate or whether he's going to teach it, or what he wants to find.
And he's not married yet? Or
No. His name is Sam.
Sam.
They named him after my uncle, Sam. That's that.
His grandfather.
Yeah. Now, Uncle Sam passed away many years. Well,
Do you know when?
a few years ago. It was after the war. Well, I don't know. It was like maybe about 10 years after they went to California.
Okay.
And Sadie
And Sadie.
passed away this past year.
Okay. Okay, let's go back up the tree again and pick up where we left off. You see, you didn't think we could fill 2 hours, huh? Yeah. Okay. We were talking about Grandma's brothers, and
We came to Uncle Sam,
Uncle
and that was
Sam's
Sam's
Joe.
side.
Right.
Next is
next
Joe.
is Joe. Let's talk about
Okay.
Joe. Let's follow it down.
Okay. You talk, I'm
All right.
Well, I don't know when Uncle Joe came over here, what year it was, but
Do you know how old Uncle Joe? Can we get a handle on his age?
Well,
or
he
when he was
was-
born? How much
he-
older he was?
he,
about 4 years younger than Uncle Sam.
yeah. Did he get married here?
No, he got
No,
married
he
in
also
Europe
got
too.
married in Europe.
Mhm.
To Aunt
Yeah,
Lena.
he was about 4 years younger than Uncle Sam. He married Lena
Heller.
Heller.
Okay.
Married Lena Heller in Europe. And they had a son in Europe before they came here, whom they named Arthur.
hmm So another art handler.
Yes,
Another
there are a lot
Arthur.
of Arthurs in the
Okay.
family.
Okay.
And then they
Margie also was born in Europe.
Margie. Oh, that's
Okay.
right, Margie.
Well, how many? Okay, let's
They had-
get it all
I'll
delineated
get
out
that.
first, and we'll follow. So Joe married
Lena.
Lena,
Heller.
and they had how many children altogether?
They had Arthur, Margie, Bill, Harry, no, Louis, and Alfred.
No.
They had 6 children.
Okay, say those names again so we can hear 'em.
Okay. Arthur, Margie, Bill, Harry, Louis, Alfred.
Okay, we're in agreement on that. Now, was that pretty much oldest to youngest?
Yeah, except Harry was.
Except
so.
Harry. Harry was the
the
youngest,
Okay.
actually.
Now, let's talk about the children that were born in Europe. Who was born in Europe?
Arthur and Margaret were born in Europe.
Okay.
The others were all born here.
Margie's.
Margie,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's see, they did not, Joe and wait a minute. I'm trying to get mine there, did not come together because
Oh, Uncle Joe came first.
Uncle Joe came first.
Came to the United
To
States.
the United States, he came to, it wasn't Akron. Was it Akron that he came to, right?
I think he came to Cleveland because I think he worked with Uncle Sam for a while. Didn't he?
That I don't know. We'll say that he came to Cleveland. and he worked with Uncle Sam for a while.
He,
And
by himself.
He came by
He had 2
himself.
children at this time and a
Yes.
wife back in Europe, and he came
Right.
here ostensibly to make some money and then eventually bring his
and
family.
sent for the rest, for his wife. And
So
his
he
children.
came here, do you have an idea when? You were born already?
No.
So then it would have been just maybe 1913,
Something
1914 right in there.
I would say something like that. That's right.
Well, just before Grandma and
Yeah.
Grandma came.
Okay.
Not too long before Grandma,
So it
maybe
would've
a
been-
year before Grandma came.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. All right. Now that's about all that that I know about that. The other, well, that'll go
Okay,
later.
so he made
Yeah.
the money he needed to make,
Yeah.
evidently, he saved money, and then did he go back to get his family, or did he send for them?
No, he sent for
He
it.
sent for his family, and which was Lena and
Arthur
Margie
and Margie.
Art. Okay.
Now,
And
on the same ship, Grandma Regina came with her mother, Sarah.
okay.
They
came over the same time
and
as
and
the
they
family
came
came over.
over. They were family already
Yeah.
because she was married to my Uncle Joe. Lena was married.
Okay, so now, let's try to put this now. I don't know if we should leave this here or not. This is an interesting story. So Grandma Regina and her mother, Sarah, came over the same time as
Lena and
Joe
Art.
Hammer's family.
Joe.
Now, what about, was Regina's father still alive at this time?
No.
So
He
Regina's,
died when she was 4 years old.
okay, so
Yeah.
Regina's father died early on, and for her,
Right.
and so her mother was a widow with this family, and then the rest of the family attempted to help her get across. How did Regina?
Uncle Sam, I think,
Yes.
send them a ship card.
Well, a
they call
ship's
it.
card, ship's card.
So it was Sam then that helped to get the
Yes.
family, Regina's part of the family over,
Right.
because there was no head of the household at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that then. I just wanted to
Yeah.
flesh that out. Okay, so we have Lena and Art and Margie. They've come over. They come to New York, and they come immediately to Cleveland,
where Uncle Joe
Uncle Joe
was at the time.
okay. And Joe was still working with Sam at this time.
But well, he went into the junk business, but I don't know when.
Well, immediately when he went to Akron, and I don't know why he went to Akron
No.
from Cleveland.
You don't know what prompted them to go to
I
Akron?
don't have any idea.
Perhaps the business. He found a business, maybe, or
Somebody probably put him into business,
Yeah.
into the junk business.
Yeah.
okay. And this was when?
Well, this was right after they came from Europe, and they came. Let's say when Grandma came. What did we decide?
1912 or something.
1912.
Okay. So they went to Akron then pretty soon thereafter and start. Now, okay, and then now the rest of the family came along, the other children, yes?
Yeah.
Who came next?
Well, wait a minute.
Right.
Aunt Lena went back to Europe.
Oh.
Aunt Lena was very homesick for her parents.
Yeah, but that wasn't right away, Helen.
Yes, it was right
Maybe,
away, about a year later.
But a year
Because
later,
she took Margie back with her.
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether she took Arthur back, but she did take Margie back, and then she was gone for about a year or a year and a half. And Margie got polio on the way coming back. And
Coming
then
back to the United States.
back to the United States on the ship,
Huh.
she contacted polio, and that's why she still to this day she lives.
Uh-huh.
But this is the story about that.
Okay. So how long was
year.
Lena? They were there a year and a half?
A year and a half. She
yes.
went to back to see her. She was very, very
He was going
homesick
to for her mother.
for her mother.
So that must have been pretty hard on the whole family. Then they split
Yeah.
up and all. And
Yeah.
of course,
But her mother,
Sarah.
No.
no. Aunt Lena's mother, I don't know.
Oh,
her name.
I'm sorry. That's right. Okay.
The Mrs. Heller was.
Yes.
She was very, from what I remember Grandma saying, is that, what did she come over for? You've got a husband now in the United States. She
knew it wasn't her duty
Your
to.
place is with your husband, not here.
Yes.
So, of course, she didn't throw her out or
Right.
anything, so she stayed a year and a half. And then
How
she
old
went
was
back.
Lena in these times? Was she married very young, do you think? And
She was kind of spoiled. There were just two sisters, and I don't know if they came from a wealthy family or not, but she was kind of spoiled. They used to have a hairdresser come into the house, and she never combed her own hair. She never
They were
dressed herself.
wealthy. They were wealthy.
Yeah, they always had somebody help pick out their clothes for them and stuff.
Okay, all right. Okay, so then they did eventually come back then, and then we had the other children coming along.
Yeah.
Who was next?
After
Margie.
After Margie was Alfred.
Belle.
Who?
After Margie's Belle.
Oh, Belle, yeah, that's her Belle. Then Alfred,
Oh.
Louis,
Okay, wait a minute.
Harry.
Okay, let's start one at a time. We'll talk about Belle. Belle was born
Belle was born in Akron.
and around.
She's around my age.
No, Belle is a little older than me.
So is
Margie's around my age.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Belle is a little older than I am. I'm going to turn 70 this year,
Okay.
so she's probably 70.
Well, wait a
Night-
minute, you got Margie on there first?
Yes, we got Margie.
Okay.
So we're talking about probably 19.
I was born in 18. She was born in
16 or
17.
17. Okay.
Let's say.
And did she marry?
She married Milt Dorman. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Milt Dorman.
And-
in 19. I think I have pictures, and I think
Okay.
it says 1966 on the face, but it couldn't be.
I don't think so.
Because Carrie is 36,
Yeah.
so she's her second, and
What's it,
Jeff
Jeff?
is older than Karen.
Sure,
so,
he must be about 40.
Yeah.
So you figure 40.
So
So
in the mid 40s,
Yeah.
1940, 45, and then.
That's right.
Okay. Now, what they live in Akron and have lived ever since in Akron, and they had 2 children.
Jeffrey and Karen.
Okay.
Jeffrey is an attorney, and Karen is in what is she?
Public relations or
Yeah.
advertising.
Jeffrey is in Chicago, is that right?
They're both in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
They're both in Chicago, and he's done very well. He's in, corporate law, actually.
Jeffrey ever married?
No, he hasn't married. And Karen just became engaged, so she's going to get married July 3rd.
Okay, I didn't know that. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
And Milt Dorman, what did Milt Dorman do?
Milt Dorman worked for his brother-in-law, who was an automobile agent. He had an automobile agency, a Toyota place I don't know if he always worked to have Toyota, but anyhow, that isn't the
Sold
important.
cars?
Sold cars and did very well. And then, of course, I think he made most of his money in the stock market. He's quite active in the stock market, and they've done
and
very
lucky.
And lucky.
Okay, then that's as far as we can take that. We'll go back up then, and the next born to Lena.
After Belle was Alfred. And then Louis.
Oh, I thought it was just the other.
No,
Okay.
no, Alfred was
Okay, let's
the
talk.
older.
Alfred.
Alfred Handler. Now, what became of Alfred Handler?
Well, he,
What did he do for a living?
Well, first of all, he was very young when he got married while he was in the service, and
that's right.
and he was killed in the war. He was killed in English Channel. They were going over.
Do you know
I guess that was during
He was married when he was still serving
married
during the war?
during the
Yes.
service.
Okay.
Had
What
no
his wife's name?
His wife's name was. She was a very nice person.
Very nice person, but I don't recall her name.
And whatever became of her, do you know?
Well, she had to get divorced from him, like, I don't know, in the Jewish religion, and she was a religious girl. She was from St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so
Before she could remarry, is that?
before she could
And she eventually
and
remarried.
she did remarry,
Yes.
and I don't know what happened after that.
And he died, you say, during the war in the
During
English
the
Channel
war.
during some
Yeah, right.
in,
And
40s.
that's all there was.
Okay, there's no children that
Yeah,
age.
no children.
Okay. And then next,
The next was Louis.
Louis, okay, and
And he also died in the war.
He became-
was killed in the war.
so he also
And he was married too, and had
married before the war?
During the war.
During the war, okay.
had a son named Alan
Louis.
Lewis.
Okay.
He died just about 2 weeks before the baby was
So
born.
he never saw his child.
Never
And the
saw
baby was named after him.
Right.
That's right.
He had a child, and his name was
Yeah.
Louis Handler. And now, what about Louis Handler? The second Louis Handler. Oh, who did he marry? Who did the first Louis Handler
Yeah,
marry?
and I married, what was her name? Elizabeth? She had another name.
Isabel.
Isabel.
Isabel was
Okay.
his wife's name.
And What do we know about her?
She is remarried. She married another fellow by the name of Lewis, and I don't know if they have any children
I don't
or
know.
not.
Okay.
I don't know.
We lost track,
Okay.
you know.
Now, the younger Lewis, the child,
It was Harry.
no, Lewis.
Lewis.
Oh, Lewis.
Lewis' son, Lewis.
Okay, now what's become of him?
Lewis was married. First,
He lived in Akron? He grew up in-
lived in Akron.
Mhm.
He stayed in Akron. His mother went, and his stepfather moved to California, I think. But he stayed in Akron, and he's I think a chemist. He's a very brilliant man. But I don't know what his field is exactly.
I don't
Do
know.
you?
No, I
Now,
don't
he
know.
married a girl who had a very bad thing. I mean, she was
Mental problem.
mental problem. And she was married, his wife, I don't remember what her name was. Anyway, she committed suicide.
Okay.
So he just recently remarried.
When was this? When did she kill herself?
When?
Yeah, do you have an idea?
Oh, I would say about 4 or 5 years.
Do they have children?
No.
No children
No,
ever?
she had a child that she killed
Yeah.
before he married her.
I see.
And so then
She was not married before. She just.
she was married to a doctor before
okay.
she married Lewis, and
Okay.
then they had a child and she killed it.
Child.
And so, but then he was with her throughout the whole trial and everything, and he felt that she was all
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
and they married, and then she killed herself. So,
Okay. Sad
I mean,
story.
that was a very sad story. But
Okay,
anyway.
he recently remarried.
Recently remarried. I don't know to who, but
And he still lives in Akron, you say?
yes,
Okay. Okay, and that's really as far as we can take that.
that's all.
All right, after Lewis. After the
Harry.
older Lewis. Harry.
It's Harry.
Handler, okay, now.
Harry, he was not in the service.
Oh, sure, once they sent him home, and the boys were killed.
They sent him home.
Oh, because 2 of his brothers had already been killed, so
Yeah,
they...
they sent him home.
He was discharged, yeah. And I don't remember too much about
Harry was
Harry.
the one that introduced Mort Solomon to Natalie Solomon.
Okay.
Right.
And when he came back from the service, he came to Akron. He went back to Akron.
Yes.
What did he do for a living?
Well, I don't know what he did at that time, but he married a girl from Atlantic City. And so they moved to Atlantic City, and of course his brother Art by this time had established a very, very lucrative business in Atlantic City, and he went to work for his brother.
Okay. We haven't gotten to Art yet. Not this Art Handler.
We missed Art?
Did we talk? We haven't talked about him, did we?
We haven't talked
See,
about
we said he came with his mother from Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We left him working, delivering pop bottles, so the poor
No,
schlep
that was
had...
the wrong Art.
Oh, okay.
That's the other Arthur.
You said there were a lot of... Well, that's what I'm saying. This,
Harry.
This is the old-
yeah, we're not talking about one of Grandma's brothers. We're talking about one of Lena's children. So we haven't gotten... He's younger than Lewis, yes? Art is still
No,
young?
he was the one born in Europe before Margie.
Arthur.
When Margie came to
Okay.
America.
Oh, so we just didn't talk about him.
No, when we started talking.
We talked about Margie and
We
okay.
started with Margie and Bill
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
forth. We
Okay,
didn't
well then
talk
let's
about-
jump back to Art right now. What when he came over, he
Get
stayed
him over.
right now. What when he came over, he
Get
stayed,
him over.
grew up and started working.
No, well, he was just a young kid. He went to school first and all that. And then he went to work for, is it
Goodyear
For Goodyear,
in Akron.
yeah, in Akron.
Okay.
And he advanced rapidly. He got married to Josephine
Spiegler.
Spiegler. That's right. He got married to Josephine Spiegler. And he kept moving up and up because he was
Did he go to college?
very good.
Never went to college.
Okay.
No.
So he just got into business.
But
or
he
He
something?
was
got
good
into the
business, he had
business,
good
was very
business, yeah.
fortunate. And then they moved to Atlantic City.
The
I
company
mean, first,
moved.
What sort of company?
Goodyear.
Goodyear.
Oh, that part of Goodyear that he
Yeah,
was working for.
Right.
Okay.
They moved to Atlantic City. And he did very, very well. And I think he's one of the wealthiest men.
Well, how did he doesn't own Goodyear, so how did this happen? What happened?
He bought the store that he bought Goodyear name in Atlantic City.
I see. And sold tires? Is that what we're doing?
No,
What did-
well,
It was at first it was tires and fenders and all, but then he expanded. It's still called Goodyear, but you can get refrigerators and stoves. You can
Appliances.
get appliances of all kind, and he's got 2 stores
Three stores he has.
One in Atlantic City, one in Pleasantville, and I don't know where the other one is.
Well, the one, and then
Pleasantville,
he's
New
got
Jersey?
Yes, and then he's got another store, just a furniture store that
Furniture,
his son-in-law
that's
runs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he and his wife had children?
He and his wife had 2 daughters.
Nancy.
Hmm?
Nancy and Sandra.
Sandra. Nancy and Sandra.
Okay.
Nancy was the oldest, and she got married
Bob.
to Bob. I don't remember his last name.
Remember his name,
she-
Helen?
Huh?
Do you remember his name?
No.
Okay.
And she and Bob had 3 children. And then, unfortunately, something happened to him, and he killed them all. He shot them all and killed himself.
Oh, wow. And when did this happen?
Never,
Oh, this was,
I don't know, it's got to have been maybe like 10, 12 years ago.
yeah.
About 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
They were all sleeping, and he shot them all in their sleep and then killed himself. Did not even know, nobody had any idea.
That there was a problem.
He didn't even have a gun. Well, I don't mean he didn't have a gun, but he went to a friend of his and asked if he could borrow his gun. He wanted his gun, and the friend wouldn't, he said no, he wouldn't give it to him. So he must have evidently gone out and bought a gun. And now Sandra, who was the youngest, is well, she went the usual through the childhood and school and everything, and then she got married to whom?
What's his name? Sanford?
No.
No.
She got married.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
And he works for his father-in-law, who is Arthur Hanber, does very well.
They have
And
He's
children?
a partner at
he's
this
the
point.
partner. And
Is Arthur retired at this point or semi-retired?
Semi-retired.
Semi.
So then his
He's,
son-in-law probably pretty much runs.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
And did they have children? This.
they have children, but I don't know anything about them.
They have 2
Sanders.
children.
Yeah, I don't
2
know.
daughters.
I don't know anything about them. I don't know their names. I don't know what they do. I don't know if they're married
No.
or anything. I have no idea about them.
Okay.
Now, what else? I
And we're
think
back to Harry.
Okay, so yeah, go back up to, was it Harry?
Harry? Oh,
Okay.
all right.
Harry
Well,
was the
Harry
one that was in the
works for
service
Ar-
and then was released
Because his 2
because his 2 brothers were
Yeah.
killed.
Right.
And came back to Akron and then you said,
Married Anita,
okay,
moved to Atlantic City,
okay.
and works for Arthur.
That's how we got to
in
Arthur.
Pleasantville, New Jersey.
Okay, runs that store or something?
Runs a store.
Have children?
Has children. We have
He has 4 boys.
Here they are.
Mark,
Joey, the oldest.
Joey, Joey,
Alan.
Alan. Oh, the youngest one.
Steve.
Huh?
Steve.
Steve? Really?
Yeah. Steve.
All right.
Okay. Do you know anything about the boys?
Joe is married. Joe is in the entertainment field mostly. I mean, he has his own band, an orchestra. He married the singer in his group, and they just had another baby recently. They have 2 children now with it.
boys,
I
I
don't know
think.
what they are. Their
Maybe I'm
gender.
wrong. I don't know.
I don't
Okay.
know.
And he still lives in Atlantic City?
And he lives in
In Pleasantville?
no, he lives in Atlantic City. They
Okay.
bought a home there.
Yeah.
I don't know just where. I don't think it's Pleasantville. His father works in
Okay.
Pleasantville, but
Okay. And any of the other boys?
Alan just got married recently. so I don't know who he married or anything.
I don't know too much
And,
about
They were Ellen I think is an accountant, and they work for the gambling casinos. I don't know what he works there. Now Mark and Steve, I don't know what they do. I think Mark works for the gambling casinos too, but I don't know what the youngest one does.
Okay.
Steve.
Okay, let's
That's
pop back
about
up
it.
now. The next, did we cover all the brothers? Harry? Is he last?
He was the youngest.
Okay. All right, let's keep going back up now. Let's see. That was,
Boy, this is all
Yeah, you see what-
interview.
this was,
No, I think
That was all Joe.
that was Joe.
Joe.
Okay,
We
so
had Sam's already
Sam
too.
and Joe.
yeah.
Now, next in line, Grandma's brothers or sisters.
Is that
Would be
it?
Aunt Regina. I mean, Grandma
Regina. So that,
Yeah.
we had Rose,
Rose was the oldest.
oldest, and then we had Joe,
Sam, and
Joe,
Joe,
and then
and
Regina.
Regina.
Okay,
All right.
okay. So let's get back to Grandma now.
You know as much as we do.
Well, some of the things. Okay, so we did pick apart the story before. Then I think we've got everything. Anything else you know that you
The
can tell
one
us
that-
about?
Well, you missed the story about Grandpa and his brothers. I mean, you started to talk about why
Which
he
one?
left Middlefield.
Why?
Well, no, we
Why
got.
he came to Cleveland.
Yeah, well, we left him there, but I want to finish up with Grandma's story and get her there, and then we'll go.
Oh,
to that. I
okay,
understand.
because there's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else in Europe that you can relate to us about Grandma's growing? Grandma was
She was
about
about-
20. See, 8. She would have been almost 20 years old when she came.
Well, no, I think she was younger than that.
I thought
think
she told me she was 18.
18.
Okay, well, within
Yeah.
your two.
Okay,
So
that's
she,
close
I mean,
enough.
she grew up in Europe.
Yes,
Oh,
she
yes.
did.
So is there anything else that you remember
Well,
can
she
relate
had very
about?
little schooling in Europe. I mean, I think she went to like the 4th or 5th grade. And and she learned how to read Hebrew, but I don't think she ever learned how to read English in Europe.
No.
But Hebrew,
Hebrew, she did. She read
she's,
Hebrew
it was
stuff.
like self-learning because her brother Joe taught her how or something.
Hebrew, we're talking about.
Did she
Yeah.
ever learn, but you said she spoke all those other languages.
Yeah.
Did she learn how to read and write those languages also?
I don't think so. Reading, maybe she knew how to read it, but I don't think she knew how to write
Before she left, did she know any English?
No.
When she
Not
came to this
that I
country, she
know
knew
of.
really
No.
nothing.
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. And what else? Any other anecdotes about her growing up that you know about family?
Probably think of it when I'm not on camera.
Yeah.
Well, she used to talk about different relatives, uncle.
Any famous relatives, stories, or things that happened
No,
in your
not
She used to talk about, you have any of her gypsy stories?
Oh, gypsies. She used to like to tell us stories about gypsies
Oh,
all
yes.
the time.
Uh-huh.
She believed greatly in their power, supposedly.
she
You
did,
know
uh-huh.
that they could cast spells and so forth, and how her mother would be able to. I know she would put a rag of vinegar across their forehead.
Mm-hmm.
This one lady that was I don't know if she was cursed by a gypsy. I mean,
This was to protect her or to get her out of the spell or
out of
whatever.
the
Yeah.
spell. Yeah.
You said that she spoke always very fondly of her mother.
Oh yeah, she loved her mother dearly.
Oh,
And
yes.
do you remember some specific stories about other things that?
Well, I remember that she was saying when her father passed away, his children by his first marriage, he was a wealthy man, and they really took away most of the wealth from her.
Yeah, there were a lot of children, so you can imagine there may have been quite a bit of squabbling.
Yeah, and so she was left with just a little piece of land that she cultivated just for her family.
For her own food.
Yeah. So Grandma she would say, "Oh, my mother is so tired and she's worked so hard." So she got on a stool and she made noodles and she made soup and she would take it in a basket and take it out to the field for her mother. And
Her
this is
father
how
died
she
when she
learned-
was 4 years old, you
Yeah.
said. So she grew up without a father.
Around, that's right. So she actually, would tell us stories about taking food. This is how she learned how to cook because
She had to do.
Yeah, she would take it out, out to the fields for her mother to.
And so, as she grew up, she mostly just helped her mother work on the farm. I mean,
Yeah,
is
that's
that
it.
this piece of
Right.
land?
Yeah,
That's right.
And then she would tell about the beautiful trees, the orchards that they had there, and apples that were this big. She'd always exaggerate a little bit. Everything was this much bigger, there.
So they had orchards and they had other things. They had no animals on this.
Yes, they did.
They had cows.
They had cows
Uh-huh.
and no pigs. And,
I think they had fowl too, like chickens.
oh, and geese, because they used to
Geese,
stuff the
yeah.
geese so that they would get fat.
That's
and
right.
Get the,
Okay. So, do you know what really prompted them to decide to come with the...
because Uncle Sam was here, I guess, and I guess he wrote them.
and more of the family was coming to this
Sure.
country, and they saw no
Yeah.
future there.
Right.
And perhaps trouble coming as well.
Yeah. Well, in fact, she told us once about a story that one of the brothers, her stepbrothers, threw Grandma Sarah in jail. Overnight she was in jail. What a shame that was, you know.
Something to do with this
Something
biddle,
to do with the farm.
the money or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But,
Okay. Okay, so then they took the Carpegia or whatever it was. Is that the name of it?
the boat?
Yeah. Why do I think of Carpegia now? Oh, well.
Carpage? No, that was the mountains.
mountains.
Oh, that's
Car-
I don't know.
Okay,
what
whatever.
they took.
Okay, so they took the ship over. Grandma,
York.
Regina
Grandma.
and Sarah.
Grandma's Regina and Sarah and Lena Handler and Art Handler and Margaret Handler.
Okay, and they
Came
came
on the
over
same
together
boat.
to New
And
York.
Joe had,
And who?
and Joe.
Joe was here. Joe was here with Uncle.
Oh, that's right.
And they came then almost directly to Cleveland. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they,
Now,
did they have to be processed through Ellis Island?
Yes, they did.
first? Okay.
Grandma was afraid she'd have to be sent back. She had an eye infection. And she was worried it got red and so forth, and I guess they finally let her through. But
it was a problem.
Problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so they came to Cleveland, and where did they live? Do you know?
Well, the Lower East Side, around Woodland and Quincy.
Yeah,
Okay.
around 30th and Woodland.
With anyone that you knew? Do you know who they lived with right off? Did
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they lived with.
they had an apartment themselves?
Wait a
It
minute.
wasn't an apartment, but I think that Uncle Sam rented a place for them.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Yeah, but you know what? We forgot. Oh, well, this maybe is later. Okay. And we must remember that our Grandma Sarah remarried Mr. Goodman.
Oh,
You
yeah,
remember?
but that was, she didn't marry him right away when she came here.
No, not. I guess not. Okay.
Okay, but let's not forget that then. I didn't
Yeah,
know
but
that.
this Mr. Goodman, I wouldn't even bother with. I mean, that was just
Well, it did
I
happen.
didn't know anything about it.
Well, we didn't know this even
I
happened. So.
forgot. I
Okay,
forgot.
okay.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
So this was many
I mean,
years after
it's
she
being
came back,
mentioned,
or-
you know.
After they
got to the States?
That she what?
That she remarried Sarah?
No, she married Mr. Goodman not too long after. I think when Grandma Regina married Grandpa Jake.
Around that time?
Around
Yes.
just before, and I don't think she lived with him for a year. And then she came to live with all her children. She gave each one of them a chance. You know, she came to live with Grandma Regina. She went to live with Uncle Joe and Uncle Sam, and this is the way she lived the rest of her life.
Just
She would
between all relatives. So
come-
she lived with your family for a while?
She lived with
Oh,
us
yeah.
mostly. Mostly with us. Yeah. And she was I mean,
Go ahead and tell me, let's talk about her now. Tell me what you remember of your grandma, Sarah.
you tell her. I didn't like my grandma.
Well, that's okay. Tell me.
No.
This is interesting because it's so different from what Grandma told you about.
Yeah.
Tell me your experiences.
Well, you know, she threatened me all the time. I must have been a mean son of a gun, you know.
You're
But
nuts.
I remember watching television one night. No,
Television?
radio. I was
No wonder she
listening-
threatened you. You were having hallucinations. But they were good ones. You should have written this down. You could have been rich.
No, I was watching the radio.
Listening to it.
And she wanted me to help with the dishes. And I said to her, "Wait, Grandma, I want to listen to this," whatever it was. And she was mumbling in the kitchen. And I don't care, Esther, I didn't like her.
Go ahead.
So she was mumbling in the kitchen, and she says to me, "Wait until I die. I'm going to come back and haunt you."
Oh.
She did tell me that. And you know, I said, "Grandma, I might die before you." And that was it. Well, when I was 15 when she passed away. She passed away in 1932. Is that right, that I was 15? Anyway, the year before I was supposed to graduate from high school, I think it was January, did I tell you this story? January or February, I had a dream about her. And you know, I told you that she
This was like 2 years later. after she died. Or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
Okay.
And I told you that she was into this gypsy business, you know. So in the dream, we were sitting on a back where we had lived when she was living on Cedar Avenue. Do you have enough tape?
Go ahead.
This takes a long time.
Let's hear it.
So when she was sitting on the back stoop, I saw her in my dream, and she called me over like this. She didn't talk to me, she just called me over, and I went over there. She said, bring me a frying pan. And I brought her a frying pan. And she breathed on it, and it steamed up, you know. And she said, I see that you will die the day before the last day of this year. Well, this was like in January and February, and I was scared all year long. I really was, because
She made an incredible impression on you.
Yeah.
It would be a scary thing for you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I didn't like her.
Okay.
And so now, to this day, every once in a while I do dream about her, but I wake myself up.
And you say, no, this is...
Yeah, I wake myself up. I won't.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
This is I'm good at.
All right, now,
of course.
of course. And Esther, tell us what a lovely lady your grandmother was.
That's right. Let me hear you say that.
Well, no, tell me about your memories. That's certainly understandable. You never had such an experience, so you have a different
I didn't.
memory.
She was her favorite,
Oh.
you know. You know how these things work.
Tell me.
I never had any problem with my grandmother. I liked her. She liked me. She liked Helen too, but Helen thinks she didn't like her.
Okay.
And she's talking herself into something.
Go ahead.
But I always got along with her.
Do you remember any stories? Did she ever take you places, or did you ever go anywhere with her, or...
No,
Remember anything?
not really. I mean, we went maybe for a walk or visiting a relative, but visiting a relative, we had to go by streetcar because we didn't have a car then. But sometimes, like, we lived pretty close to my Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam when they lived on Huff Avenue, and we lived on Cedar. So we would walk over there maybe on a Saturday. It was a nice hike, but we were able, to do that, and she would go. She was a very religious person, and but I don't know. I liked her, and I thought she never did me any harm, and I'm sure that she never would do Helen any harm.
Don't be so sure. I would tell you about...
Just a minute.
Just more?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just can't. I'm just telling you the way I felt
that's what
about her.
Yeah.
We had altogether different feelings.
Sure.
Helen doesn't like her, and I do like her, and I never had any problems.
Okay.
That's
You had another story in Helen?
Yeah, Grandma was bitten by a rat.
Regina.
Grandma Sarah.
Sarah was bitten
My
by...
grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
Bitten by a rat, and she had one finger removed. Up until this time, I wanted to be a nurse. But at that time, we had the nurse come in to tend her, to take the pus and to soak the finger.
So it became infected, and it was...
It became infected, and they had to remove the finger. So they wanted me to help, when the nurse came, the visiting nurse. So I would go in with the pail of water, when they would soak it. And then I changed my mind about becoming a nurse because I couldn't really take all that,
Yeah.
So this changed my profession from a nurse to an office worker.
It was furnaces from then on.
I'm a furnaces from then on.
Okay. That's it. Well, that's good. It's important because she's the only grandparent that you have actual knowledge of firsthand.
Right. The
So
others-
it was important for us to at least talk a little bit about your experiences with her. Okay. Now we both have Regina and Jake in Cleveland. Now we have Jake in Middlefield and Regina in Cleveland.
Okay.
Now let's take it from there. What did Jake? We talked a little bit about his cousin living in Cleveland. So take it from there.
My cousin lived with my grandmother and my mother Pina.
In the same apartment building, is that
In
what you
the
mean?
same, wherever they lived. I don't know if it was a house or an apartment
Okay.
building, but he lived with them.
Yeah.
He was a roomer, like he paid rent or whatever.
Okay.
And this was an extra income for them. And he had this cousin who had come over to America that was living in Middlefield. And so we don't really know too much about him. His name was Fred. Fred.
Would you know if he was he a Shlomovitz or a...
No, I don't know what his
No,
last name
I don't
was.
know.
And he asked my father, Jake, to come to live here with him. I don't know whether
Something
they
to do with
want
his job or
to
something?
go into, if he wants them to stay to live together, you know, or what it was. But I know he didn't live too much longer than that at my mother and my grandmother's.
Okay.
What
So
happened to
Jake
him, I
did
don't know.
then come to Cleveland at
Jake
his
came to
cousin's
Cleveland
request.
and met Regina.
Talk about Middlefield.
Okay.
What about
Do you know anything more about Grandpa's time in Middlefield? He worked at the basket.
In a basket weaving company in Middlefield.
Did he
and
weave
was-
baskets? Did he?
Well, I don't know what he actually
But
did.
why he left Middlefield?
Why did he leave
Well, his
Middlefield?
cousin.
No,
He
split
didn't-
with his brother. The split. Talk about the split.
He had some. Did he have any problems in Middlefield that caused him to want to leave?
No, I don't think so.
Brother.
I don't.
Well, his brother married a Gentile girl.
Well, let's not leave this out of the story.
Okay, his brother married a Gentile girl.
His brother.
His oldest brother, and I guess he didn't approve of it, although my father was
Wasn't
not
bad.
as religious as my
No.
mother. I mean, Jake
But-
wasn't as religious.
But this was a problem, you said.
And eventually, I would think it was some sort of a problem because he didn't approve of it.
Or maybe
know.
he didn't like her or something.
Or
right?
it might be that he didn't like her. I don't really know. So he came. That was one of the.
So that was a part of the
reasons.
scenario for him leaving. Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry I don't have a picture of that. I did have a picture of that brother with a baby and his wife, who was a lovely looking woman, and I think
Disappeared?
Grandma
Burned it.
tore it up.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah,
Really?
I was showing it to somebody. I remember her taking it from my
Oh.
hands.
Yes.
Grandma Regina.
Yes.
So anyhow, so this is how he met Grandma.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he came and then did live at least for some time with this cousin and then in Grandma's house
Yeah,
or
right.
apartment.
Yeah.
And he met Grandma then. Okay.
Right.
So did they?
They weren't engaged about 6 months. Then they got married.
Yeah.
And where did they get married? Do you know?
I
In
know.
Grandma's house, I think.
Oh yeah, but I don't know.
Yes,
We
but
do
they-
have a ketubah, and we'll take a
Oh,
look at
is
that a
it
little
on
bit
there?
later on. Well, yeah, it'll be on there. I'm
Okay.
not sure if we can read what it is.
But I'm sure they didn't go to a hall or anything.
No, it was in the
like
home,
that.
you think?
I think it was in the
And,
And this
it
was what-
during war years.
What year was this?
Or
When was this?
beginning of the, well, it was in 1914, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know the date? What was their anniversary?
December, it was a 7th candle, Hanukkah candle. So
Well, I
what
think
date?
it's on the ketubah.
Okay, we'll take a
It's
look.
on the wedding.
It would have been in December sometime
December
of
13th.
December 13th.
December 13th, 1914. Okay.
Yeah, and so what we were saying. So they
We're just talking about
got married.
they're married in the house, you think? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what did Grandpa do for a living when he came to Cleveland? Do you know?
He was he was a cook? Was he a cook
I'm trying to remember.
at that time?
I think he was.
He was a cook for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Now,
was
when
a
they
cook.
okay,
In the
well, let's
restaurant.
do this now. When they became married, did they move out of the house? Where did they go?
Oh, yeah. They moved into a house,
They
house, an upstairs of a two-family.
They rented.
They rented a home.
Okay.
And he
It's
was
still in the same area. In
Yeah,
Woodland.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he was not a cook. He
No.
was not quite. I knew before I started talking. Now I forgot it. He was what he did.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Bricklayer or something?
Huh?
Bricklayer?
No, that was afterwards.
Okay. This was 1914, so Aunt Esther came along fairly soon thereafter.
Yeah, about a year after, huh?
Yeah, 1915.
Okay.
No, that can't be.
Sure. 14, they were married December 14, December 15, you were born.
That's a year.
About a year.
That adds up all right, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start to worry about that.
Okay, so Aunt Esther was born. Was it in this house? We talked about it a little bit. We weren't sure
I was in
exactly
the
where.
house, but
And you
Grandma
had-
was attended by a doctor.
Okay, we've been down this story
Yeah.
before. Let's, we had the beginnings of you two. Let's continue on the story with Grandpa. What's the first occupation you know?
I'm trying to think. We said cook, but he did something
No.
before he was a cook. And
He didn't work in a hat factory, did he?
Oh,
No.
yes, he did.
That seemed to
But
remember.
not at that time.
Oh, okay.
No.
Grandpa had a lot of jobs, but
Yes, he did.
Okay, what's the first one then that you remember? When Aunt Esther was born, do you know what he was doing when you were real little?
They had a candy, they opened a candy store also.
That was later.
That was already after
That
I
was
was born,
later.
so he was a cook first.
Okay, and then you think he was a cook until they got this candy store?
I think so. And then they were given a raw deal on the candy store too. You know, the shelves were filled with boxes, and here they buy whatever, everything. And when they go to open the boxes,
There's
they're
nothing.
empty. No candy in any of these boxes.
Not thinking that they should have opened up the boxes, when they
So
went
it's
to
it really
look.
like a little deli, because I remember Ma slicing salami, making salami sandwiches.
Oh, I remember eating candy.
So it was a candy store. Perhaps they had some other food in
Yeah.
it. And both Grandma and Grandpa worked. Both
Yeah.
Regina and Jake worked in the in this
That's
candy
right.
store, whatever it was.
And that's they didn't stay into the candy store very long, because
No.
they
Why? Because they went bankrupt. That's
Yeah.
why.
Didn't make any money.
Yeah, they-
And this was for how long? A year? 2 years?
About a year. About a year.
hmm
Sure.
Then he went back to cooking, to working in a restaurant.
Do you know what restaurant or?
Well, it was a
It was a relative of a relative. Wasn't it?
Leibowitz or-
Yeah, something like it. Leibowitz or something like that. And we know nothing about them.
that is really on my dad's side of the family.
Side, yeah.
Those relatives.
But you're not sure how they fit in, where they come from.
No.
Well, Aunt Sarah's sister, brother owned that,
Yeah.
and the Lefkowitzes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we don't really know them.
Okay.
We know very little about my dad's side of the
Yeah,
family.
yeah, okay. So he then was a cook for years
A long time. He was a cook for
until
until he worked for the building trade. Then he got into the union.
and then this was when?
This was when you were, well, I remember I was about 5 or 6 years old.
So I was about 7 or 8.
So about the early 20s.
Early 20s.
And he
Yeah.
joined the union in the building
And
trade.
became a bricklayer or laborer.
No, he was not a bricklayer.
Bricklayer and a
No,
laborer.
that's a profession. He was a laborer. Did
Yeah,
all
but
the...
he did very well financially.
Yes,
He
I
made
know,
out
but he
real
wasn't.
good.
I know, but he was not a
Yeah,
bricklayer.
he made the most money, I think, in his whole life.
Doing this.
Yeah.
Doing that.
And what, do you know any projects that he worked on specifically?
Oh, yeah. He worked on one of the hospitals.
You know, what
Did he
hospital?
work on with Mount Sinai Hospital?
I don't know.
He worked at
About the terminal tower, didn't
He always talked.
Terminal Tower.
Did he work on the terminal
Yeah.
tower?
Terminal Tower he worked on.
Okay.
Yeah. He worked on in a hospital and Terminal Tower.
And this was so. Now how long?
And a
This,
school, I think. You know,
the terminal
that-
tower was like in the early 30s, so he must have done this for quite a while.
He did that for a while, yeah. He did that during the Depression.
Okay.
He was doing that.
So he made fairly decent money all during the
Yeah,
Depression, so
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
didn't have too bad a
Well,
time. How was it?
Oh,
no,
wasn't that-
he
no,
was
Ellen.
sick though. He was. It wasn't that late long.
I don't know, but during the Depression we were poor. We were poor. We were, oh no.
Where did, now, let's talk about houses. Did you move around different places? Do you remember?
Yes,
When we were
moved a
very
lot.
young, we moved a lot.
Yeah.
Until
they
until
caught
we.
us.
No,
I'm kidding.
that's not true.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't know.
We moved
Get
a
my
lot
thoughts together.
for the simple reason, I believe, wherever we were, the landlord would raise the rent, or the
Uh-huh.
landlord wouldn't fix what had to be fixed.
So you had to go to some other place.
So that's why we moved to, mostly it was because we couldn't afford the
Whatever.
raises.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now in 1928, a son Mort came along.
Yeah.
And now where were you at the time? That you'd still been moving around. This was still another place.
No, now we were we lived on
Cedar.
Cedar, on 70th and Cedar.
Okay.
We were we lived there for quite a while. We were in a little bit better shape, you know.
Uh-huh.
And Dad, no,
I was 10 and you were 12 and a half.
Okay.
I didn't.
So Mort came
I
along
didn't
quite a bit
know
later.
she was- I didn't
Yeah.
know. I was 12 years
Yeah.
old. Nowadays they know all that. I didn't know,
Me
you know.
either. I was so
We're
young.
talking
came
about
home
you didn't know that
mother
Regina was even pregnant.
Right.
Really?
It was a
And we
surprise to
came
the
home.
entire family.
Oh.
Came home from school one day, and who was that? Who was there that said to us, "Go to your
I
aunt's
think
house.
Pa was outside and he says, don't come in the
Don't
house.
come in the house. Go to Tante Sadie she has something for you. She has to tell you something.
Imagine
And
it.
this is
Well,
the type-
Because it wasn't his place to tell you. He knew, but did he? You assume he knew. I mean, up
Well,
until
yeah,
I hope he did.
But anyhow, and Sadie lived on Huff Avenue at
Yeah.
that time. So Helen and I, we walk over there, and Tante Sadie had cookies out and
Food,
pop
yeah.
and something.
Mazel tov. You didn't know what happened. So now-
And she said, I'm going to tell you something. You've got a baby brother. And we said,
Where did he come from?
she said, you can go home now.
So, in other words, Grandpa said to her because it wasn't a man's job to tell you. He wouldn't know how to say.
It was not,
Yeah.
it was not manly, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
we
we
ran
were
home.
walking home on our way home. You remember our discussion? How could we like somebody else?
That's right.
We had been together for
We're
all
so
these
close.
years ourselves.
Now someone's
How could
squeezing
we
in.
love anybody else?
Yeah.
You
Until
remember?
we saw him.
Yeah. So that was.
Okay, so then you came home and you saw the baby was
Saw
there.
the baby.
So the baby was already there when you came home the first time,
Grandma
but
was there. Grandma
Yeah.
was there.
Our grandma Sarah was there.
Yeah.
She was living with us. That was one of the many times. Of course,
Yeah.
Grandpa Jake and,
Uh-huh.
and I held him for the first time. And
Yeah.
I just loved him. So that's just,
okay. So now the family. Now there were three of you, and you lived in this house, or this.
We lived
On
in this
Cedar?
house on Cedar until Mort was 4 years old. Right?
We had his bar mitzvah on Cedar.
No, we didn't. We had it on
Oh, no, that,
on Elgin.
no, I was thinking of, no, that's right.
Okay, so you moved to still more. There were still more houses. You still moved fairly often, even after Mort was born.
Well, yeah, after Mort was born, we moved to Bourne Avenue.
Bourne Avenue, that's
It's a
right.
little street off of 105th Street. That was a very interesting little street.
Mhm, very small street.
Yeah, small.
2 houses on it, I think.
Yeah.
That was more.
Yeah,
more
and
houses.
it was a nice.
And then, I guess we eventually end up on Berkeley now.
Yes.
Still much
Well,
later than that.
We
When-
lived on Kimberly before we moved on, and that's where Dad was bar mitzvah.
on Kimberly.
On Kimberly.
And this was still a rented house or whatever.
It was a rented house. We lived upstairs with the Furman family.
Okay.
Eugene Furman's family. And that was, and then from there we bought our first home on Kimberly.
Oh, on Kimberly.
No.
Berkeley.
On Berkeley.
Wait a minute.
We
Did you-
lived on Kimberly. We bought that house.
Colleen, where did we live when we lived with Furmans?
Elgin.
I'm sorry. All right, we lived on Elgin.
And then you moved to Kimberly and bought a house.
Bought that
That's
house.
And this
We
house,
bought
what
the
was this house
in
like?
Kimberly. And that house cost us $6,000. We sold it when
It
we
was a
sold
big
it.
house. Which, the one on Kimberly? Yeah, it was a big house. It had up and down, your bedrooms upstairs.
What year was this? Around when was this?
It was
Let's see now.
How old was Dad?
Trying to think of where.
Dad, Dad was 13. Dad was bar mitzvah there.
Okay.
So,
So it would have been 1941,
yeah.
right?
Like very
42?
Something like that.
Okay. And you lived there for how long?
We lived there for about 10 years.
Until around
We moved to-
1950. You know when it was you moved in?
Berkeley.
In
51 or 52.
Yeah.
or
right
something
about when
like
I was
that.
born.
Yeah.
A
Uh-huh.
little bit before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know whether it's the first Pesach that he was.
Yeah, he wet our cot.
Yeah.
That's on tape.
Thank you very much.
That's on tape.
This can be erased. Okay. Now, so 1940. Now you girls were already grown
Yeah,
at this time.
right.
So now let's talk about your school and Esther. Do you remember going to school? Where did you go to school? Did you go to a lot of different schools because you moved around so much? Both of you? Did you move around and go to a lot of different
Our
schools?
elementary schools, a
Yeah,
lot of
elementary.
elementary schools.
Well,
Was that
And
very-
high
just-
school, we were all the way, well, you started at Longwood, but that was because John Hay was.
Longwood? No, I never went to Longwood. I went to John Hay.
Yeah, but
They had just been built. That was in 1930.
yeah.
John
So,
Hay
but you
had
did go back and forth through a lot of different elementary
John Hay
schools.
had just been
Yes, but I'll tell you the truth, I don't remember them.
I was wondering if it was difficult. Do you remember it being difficult, having to make new friends all the time? And
Yeah.
do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But only remember, what I remember like back is Giddings.
Because-
I don't remember anything before Giddings.
Because we stayed on Cedar the longest, and
Yes.
Giddings was a school down the
Down
street.
the street.
You know, and so
And
that's where.
I don't recall any of the other
Well,
schools.
you remember the
Wait a minute. Wooldridge. I remember Wooldridge. That's where I started school.
There where I started too.
You started Wooldridge too?
And is that where they had to drag me into the kindergarten?
Yeah, the Dragons to school.
That happened to you too?
You too, yeah.
Well, what do you remember that? That traumatic experience?
I remember. It was a terrible experience.
Well, let's hear. We love hearing about your terrible
Oh,
experience.
I know. I'll tell you what happened. Grandma came with me to school. It was my first day of school, and we were in the, I guess it's what they call the lobby, and all this crowd of people there waiting for the bell to ring, and the first day of school to start, and the bell rings. And here she says, "Come on, Helen." Helen didn't want to go. And so what finally happened was...
Excuse me. In the meantime, I'm there because I've already started school.
Right,
see?
yeah. She's
And
upstairs
I'm
in the
up on the
third
second
grade.
floor. Go ahead.
Okay. So my Grandma Regina couldn't get me into school. So the next thing I remember was that the kindergarten teacher took me by my legs, and Grandma took me under the arm, and they carried me into the kindergarten, screaming all the way. Then my sister Esther was upstairs.
Who heard you?
And she said, "That's my sister," and to all her schoolmates. She knew it was me. And this is the way I started school.
And it was downhill from
And
there.
downhill from there on, yeah.
That's interesting. Now, so you, where did you go to high school? Did you both go to John?
Well, both went
I went to, Central High first.
Wow.
And
Hi.
went to Central High. And then I transferred. Let's see,
Why?
we didn't move. Why did I transfer? Oh, it was junior high. That's right. I went to junior high at Central High. And then from there I went to John Hay, which was high school. John Hay, we were still living on 70th and Cedar. And John Hay was on 107th and Carnegie, which was quite a long way. And I walked because, again, I couldn't afford to take a streetcar. So I walked there and walked back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
You graduated high school, both of you. And then did you get jobs right away? You remember? Or did...
Let's see, I graduated. Where did I get a job? Oh, even during the time that I was still going to school, I had a part-time job. I worked Saturdays for the A&P. In those days, the A&P, like any other store, it wasn't a supermarket. You know, people came to you and said, "Give me a pound of sugar, give me a pound of this," and you had to do it that way. I used to work, the store would open up, I think it's 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was there until about 11 o'clock at night because we had to clean up everything for the next, not Sunday, they didn't have stores.
So you provided the groceries and things for people. I mean, you did whatever, you worked behind the counter and...
Right,
and did those things.
right. And for that I got paid $2.
A day?
A day. That's right. And then after that, well, I worked there for quite a while. And then I also worked in a privately owned grocery store. It wasn't a A&P or anything. It was Mr. Simon. And I worked, there was also, like I say, a grocery store, the same type of thing. I don't remember what I got paid there. And then, I'm trying to remember if I was going to high school at the time. I was going to high school at the time that I was working, yeah.
Okay.
And
what sort of job did you have next? And after you graduated high school, you worked there for a while, then
yeah.
in
Then what I wanted was office work.
Okay.
That's what I wanted.
So what did you do to be able to get office work?
And I went looking, and of course, couldn't find anything, and this was now during the Depression. So I went on, was it WPA? Went WPA, and I got an office job, and I worked for quite a while there at WPA, and then in when did the war start? I mean, when did we enter the war?
42.
42, all right. In 1942, Helen, well, how did you meet Mr. Abelson?
Nordine was the one that told
Okay,
me.
well, let's drop your story here. Let's go take Aunt Helen up there, and then we'll pick that up
Oh,
together.
all right.
Maybe that would make some sense. High school, you graduated, and then what was your experience after high school?
After I graduated from high school, I couldn't get a job very easily, but I did get a job working for an automobile agency, and I worked for them up until the war. No, I worked for a car loading company, Ray Car Loading Company. I worked for them for a while.
Secretarial type of work?
Filing, that's clerical work. And from there, I went to an automobile. I worked for a Pontiac place, and then I worked for a Ford place, and that's when the war broke out. And of course, they weren't making cars anymore, so I was, but I was out of work for 3 days, and I must have had about 22 offers of jobs in that short, because that was when things were just starting, I mean, when the war broke out, they
All
needed
kinds of
help
things,
and all kinds of
yeah.
things. So I went to work for a company that made special tools, dies, and fixtures for the war effort. And so I worked for them from 41 to 48. And at that time, the controller of the company went to work for somebody else, and he asked me to come with them, so I went to work for that.
Was that this Mr. Abelson? Or?
No.
Okay.
When I worked for Summer and Adams from 41 to 48, I met a man who knew about an opening, and this is how, and I told Aunt Esther about it, and she was able to get that.
And this job was with?
It was, did you say where?
Yeah.
Well, it was here in Cleveland. It was named the Aero Equipment Company, and I got a job doing office work there. And I worked there until the war was over. Then I got there was something I wanted to mention. What was that again?
It was LeGank that you worked for.
Oh, I forgot about that bastard. Oh, I should have forgot.
So this was not your top work experience for this guy.
No, that's right. I went to work for LeGank Electric Company. And they were such miserable people. It was a man and his son who owned the company. The son was especially no good. And I worked for them I worked for them for a couple of years until Helen told me about this opening at Aero Equipment. So I went and I was hired, and it was doing office work. And I worked there for the rest of during the war period. And that was about it. And then right after...
Aero, then the Aero?
Aero Equipment.
Aero Equipment.
Aero Equipment.
Okay. And then you worked there until when?
Until the end of the war.
Okay.
45.
Okay.
45, right. And then I got a job with two men who had also worked. No, they hadn't worked for Aero Equipment, but they were like sales reps. Thank you. And they wanted me to go with them. They opened up an office, and I went to work for them.
Okay.
And I worked for them until I got married.
Okay. Which was in
65.
What?
66.
No. When did I get married? 64.
64.
64.
Okay.
1964.
And who did you marry?
I married Mr. William Goldstein,
Okay.
who was from New York.
Okay.
All right. That's my story.
That's your story.
Yeah.
And today you live in Mayfield Heights,
And she has one daughter.
and you have one daughter.
Right, who lives in Columbus, and she's a teacher, and she is married
To Joe.
to Joe
Juliana.
Giuliani.
Right. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And now, Helen, let's pick your story up here. After what job did we leave you after the war? You worked till like 48 with.
With the Summer and Adams Company.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then their controller left, and he asked me to join them at it was American Vitrified Products Company. They made these cement pipes or something. And I stayed there until 1952. In 1952, I had it with that company, and so I started looking for another job, and I found a job at the Marlomax Supply Company, and I'm still there.
And still with them today, as a matter of fact. And in fact, at the end of this month, we'll retire from there.
Semi-retired.
Semi-retire.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Let's see. Where can we pick this? So let's talk. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
I have a question. I don't know if you said to this while I was on the phone. Because during the Depression, did you go over there quickly? Did Grandma work outside the home a lot? Did she have to?
Grandma worked outside of the home during the
Oh, yeah.
Depression.
Okay. What did Grandma do?
She plucked chickens
She plucked chickens at a.
at a poultry.
Poultry place.
And also, she made noodles at a place.
Bakery.
At a bakery, yeah.
And Grandpa, we talked about his working in the union trades, and then
Then,
he
of
was sick. You said
course,
for a while. What kind of?
he got sick.
What happened?
He worked at
wait a
Fisher
minute, he worked
Body.
at Fisher Bodies for a while, and that's when he became ill.
Yeah.
During the war years, I think, or just before, about the war. When did he work at Fisher Bodies?
I think it was during the war years.
During the war years, he worked there, and then he became ill, and he had a tumor on his lung, and luckily, I mean, even with that, I mean, he survived for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Fisher Body, was that the last job that he had? Did he retire?
I think so.
from it?
Oh,
That was-
wait a minute, he worked with Ma at Glazer's, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he did. But was that at that time? Yeah, he did. Well, he helped Mr. Glazer deliver. He worked at the poultry store too.
Okay.
At the same time Grandma did. But he would help deliver. He would go with the boss and help deliver things like that.
Okay.
The owner.
Okay, let's pick up the story with my father, with Mort. Tell me about his school. You are uniquely qualified to talk about this period of time because you were very close and were with him and were old enough to really know what was going on. So, talk about his school years and tell me these stories that you know.
Well, he went to school at, I had it here a minute
East
ago.
East Technical High School. No?
You're talking about
Oh,
before that?
Giddings.
Giddings?
His elementary school.
Did he go to Giddings?
Yeah, he did.
But then he went somewhere when we moved to Elgin. What school did he go to? That was also elementary.
School, I know.
Holmes.
Oliver Wendell Holmes School. That's where he really went.
That's where he
Okay.
went. Oliver
Giddings, he
Wendell
didn't go
Holmes.
'cause we
Huh?
moved. He didn't
Yeah.
go to Giddings.
No,
'cause
I
I
didn't
think
think so.
he was 4 when we moved.
Right. He
Okay.
went to elementary school, Oliver Wendell Holmes. He went to junior high. Where did he go to junior high? Well, that I don't recall. High school, he went to East Tech.
Okay.
Where
Do you-
did he go to junior high?
Do you remember what sort of, let's talk about the younger years, do you remember what sort of child he was, when he was, less than 10, when, I assume you did things
Well,
with him?
he was a good child. There was nothing. We loved him. He loved all of us. The only time that he wasn't so good was when he threw his scissors at his sister Helen.
I enraged him, but I was watching. I was listening to the radio.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to the radio like you kids sit next to the TV. And he wanted something real badly. And I said, just a minute, Mort, I'll get it, and whatever. And the next thing I know, there's a flying past me, embedded right into the TV. I mean,
The radio.
Into the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was he?
That he was maybe
2 years old?
Oh no, he
More
must
than
have been
that?
older than that. He wouldn't have had the strength to do the way that thing flew.
Well, I don't think he was. I think
But
he
you
was in
know,
the-
she tells things about Mort, but I'll tell you, she came after me with a hot poker.
I was going to tell him.
All right, let's hear the hot poker story. This ought to be good.
But she was. I don't know how old she was, but she was an infant in arms, and Grandma was sitting with her in her arms like this. I don't remember. I think she was rocking her, putting her to sleep or something. And I must have been jealous. That's the only reason. Because really, I do hate her, you know. And we had an old coal stove. You didn't have a furnace or anything.
Potbelly stove.
Yeah. And they had the poker, you know, where to... And I went ahead and I opened up the stove and I put the poker in here and hit her right over here with the poker, the hot poker. And she still got a mark there from it, I think. And oh God, did I get it?
But so, you know, they were very good to me between Mort and Esther.
You were the most popular one.
I really...
Okay.
You know more about Mort?
Yeah, did he have a lot of friends? Did he play outside with
Lot
the
of
kids?
friends.
A lot of friends. He was a Boy Scout. He joined the Boy Scout troop.
The, what they call, not the Explorer Scouts, there was another kind that he
know
was.
that.
Wasn't the Explorer, it was the aviation. There was an aviation group, that's the one he joined.
And he liked that.
Very active in that.
How did he do in school? Was he a good student, average student?
I would say average.
I think it was average. I think he didn't, I don't think that he really...
Applied himself as well.
Right.
Yeah.
As well as he could have. In fact, when he was taking his bar mitzvah lessons,
Oh, yeah.
Grandma used to stay on the porch and wave goodbye to him because he was going to, but we found out he went to the library instead, and he stayed there just long enough to, you know, to have the hour, and then he would come home until someone found out that.
Yeah. I don't know who.
So.
Do you remember his bar mitzvah?
He what?
Do you remember his bar mitzvah?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
His bar mitzvah was very, very nice. It was in our home, and I think that Aunt Sadie and Aunt Lena and Grandma Regina cooked and baked for about 3 weeks before, and they made corned beef sandwiches and they made all kinds of goodies, and it was in the home and it was just beautiful.
It was really
Did he do a good job after school?
Did a beautiful
Yes,
job,
very.
just a beautiful job for his bar mitzvah. Yeah, but he did fine. I mean, he learned. I guess he,
Yeah.
you know,
Learned what he needed to learn.
eventually, huh?
He learned what he needed to learn.
That's right.
As a teenager, do you remember him?
He had a lot of friends.
He had a
He
lot.
always had a lot of friends.
Was he
Yes,
always
he did.
going places and doing things?
Always
Yeah.
a lot more, you know, than they wanted him to. They wanted him to settle down and to get a job, and I think he was like me in that way, because I really never worked until I was old enough till I graduated from school, and then I never had a
When
part-time.
he was a teenager, he was a pin boy in one of the alleys.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yes, he
remember.
did.
One of the bowling alleys.
Yeah, they
Uh-huh.
finally convinced him to do something
That was-
to make a few extra cents, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny how these things come back to you.
So is that pretty much the only job you remember him having is in high school? Or-
Yeah, I think.
I think
Well, you know,
You should
that-
explain what a pinboy is because a lot of people don't know anymore.
Well, you know what a pinball
In
is.
a bowling alley before they had the automatic machines, so
Right.
the boys got
Right.
their set them up.
Exactly. He got so money per setup, you know, some 10
Yeah.
cents or whatever it was.
So that was the only job that you recall that he had.
Yeah, of course, he used to
What-
sell passes on the street corner every once in a while. I don't know if you're aware of that, but years ago they used to have car passes or streetcar passes or bus passes, trolley passes.
Like tickets, is that what they were?
Well, they were passes for about a week.
Okay.
Now they expired every Saturday. So a lot of people that were going to ride the buses or the streetcars after a certain time, he would stand on the corner
buy
and
them.
he would ask them if they're through with their passes. then he would get passes and sell them to people that
Could
would
get
be
a ride.
So
It would
Yeah.
be cheaper than buying a ticket on the.
that's right. It was
So
cheaper.
maybe a quarter or something like that.
yeah. So that's
I think the passes at that time were $1.75 or something.
yeah. So
Okay, did Mort graduate from high school
he graduated. No,
No,
at that time?
no. He did not. He went to East Tech. He did not graduate. And I really don't know what he took and what courses he took.
So when he finished, did he drop out of high school? Did he go directly into the service? What did he do?
He dropped out of high school and went directly into the service. Exactly. That's what he did. And he was.
Was this something that the family discussed, or he just decided to do?
Grandma was very upset with him. In fact, I think he and Grandma didn't talk for a while before because, and she not to this day, but as long
She
as
never
could
really
remember.
forgave him for doing
yeah.
it.
No, she didn't. She didn't forgive herself because she was very upset with him. She didn't want to talk to him, and she.
Oh, so she was sorry about having
She was
been
sorry
like that.
Yeah.
that she did that to him. Yeah. So, but he went into the service, and he wasn't here long. He went overseas pretty fast.
He was
He
stationed
went
in
to
Germany.
Germany, Frankfurt.
Yeah.
And he was stationed there. This was
Another-
right after the war.
It was immediately after the war. In fact,
Yeah.
if the war hadn't ended when it did, he probably would have gone.
So when he had plans to go into service, the war was not over. Is that right?
When he
That's
originally
right.
planned, the war
Yeah.
was not over, and he and one of his buddies decided that they were going to go in. The other one backed out, but Mort went in.
Yeah.
And he was in the service for,
He was in the service. That was 50.
no, what?
When did he meet Mom? At 50.
48 or 49.
No.
They were married in 50.
Yeah, they were married in 1950, so it would have to have been,
50?
yeah,
Yeah.
mine was born
Well,
52.
Oh wait, but the war wasn't over until 50.
No, the war was over in 45.
45, and they married when?
50.
45.
You said that
9 years,
one
so-
of Grandpa's nephews introduced Natalie to
Yeah,
Mort.
Harry.
One of Grandma's.
Harry Handler introduced. How did he know Mort and all this? How did this come about? Do you know?
Well, he knew Mort because it was a cousin.
Oh,
Harry
right,
and
right,
Mort.
yeah. How did he know Natalie? That's right.
Natalie and her parents lived in his
Big
mother and
building.
dad's apartment.
Oh, I see.
And when their father passed away, when my Uncle Joe passed away, my brother Mort sent them a beautiful letter. Wasn't that a beautiful
Yeah.
letter?
Mhm.
About how nice Uncle was to him and
Uh-huh.
how he appreciated everything. He was sorry that he had gone and so forth. And so we were very close. And so when we heard that Mort was being,
Coming out of the service.
coming out of the service, they got they have such a good-looking cousin. They wanted Natalie to meet their good-looking cousin.
So they set up.
So they invited him in for this one day. I don't think he really knew what was going to happen. It wasn't that
He just thought he was going to visit relatives.
Yeah, and so he went there and they introduced him to Natalie. And
The rest is history.
he came home that night and
Yeah.
I was still up. I said, boy, did I meet a nice girl.
So something happened immediately. I mean, he knew that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
They didn't know each other that long when they got married.
Uh-huh.
So he really.
He was the right chemistry.
I think he even brought a picture. The first date they had, he brought a picture. I don't know if that's it or not, but he did.
Okay. Okay, this is Natalie Cohen at the time is what we're
Natalie
talking about.
Cohen,
It became
right.
Natalie Solomon, my
Right.
mother. So they married in 1950.
1950.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember?
Nice wedding.
He eventually got a high school degree or an equivalent.
Through he went to where did Mort go to get his high school?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well.
He went to night school, didn't he?
Yeah, he did go to night school because I remember
Yeah, I
that.
don't
Tell me about. Let's go back to the wedding. Though. Tell me about the wedding. Do you remember the wedding?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Esther was in the wedding
I
party.
was a bridesmaid.
Let's go back to the wedding. Though. Tell me about the wedding. Do you remember the wedding?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Esther was in the wedding
I
party.
was a bridesmaid.
Where was the wedding?
Bethel?
Bethel, I think, in Akron.
Akron.
Uh-huh. I think that's
Was it a large
very
wedding?
nice wedding. we all enjoyed it. I mean,
It was a
very
wedding.
nice. Yeah,
Okay. And then about 2 years later, they had a son, Gary.
Gary,
Yours truly.
right.
And then about 2 years later, they had a son,
Yes,
Steve.
And
And then about 6 years later than that, they had a daughter, Lori. Okay.
That's right.
And, well, we can go on from the story from there. I just need to get that. We're really just about out of tape here.
No.
Have we left anything out? Well, of course, Mort passed away
Yeah.
in
1972.
72. Too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Natalie remarried to Sam Barr.
Bar in, I don't know, July 4th, but I don't know which year.
77.
77.
77.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I guess that's the story as we leave it right now. We might have just a few feet of tape to look at some pictures, so I think we'll
Oh.
fade out right now and try that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Here.
Of my mother and dad.
pointed out.
Oh, no?
Okay.
Should I do that?
Yeah, go ahead now. This is a
read it.
picture of Jake
Regina
and Regina Solomon on their wedding day.
on their wedding day in 1940. This is their certificate.
Okay, hold on,
ketubah.
Esther.
Wait a minute.
Back off a little and we'll see the whole picture. Okay.
Now, what is this
And
thing?
we're coming to the marriage certificate
that?
here.
Marriage certificate.
Okay.
Just a minute
This
here.
is
We'll-
the certificate of marriage of Regina Handler and Jake Solomon.
Okay. And let me close in a little bit on this.
This is
Get some of the details. Okay.
right.
And this slide over here.
Okay.
What is this, Esther?
And this is the ketubah of
The Jewish
the Hebrew
certificate of marriage.
ketubah of Regina Handler and Jake Solomon. There you go.
There.
How you forget?
Wait till he's ready.
Take a little closer look. Some of the Hebrew writing here. There are the names of the bride and groom in Hebrew.
Do you want to say what they
Okay.
are?
Now, you have a picture of Sarah and Regina.
Oh, well.
Sarah and Regina when they first came to this country.
About the time that they came here, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. That doesn't even look like her.
She looks mean.
Yeah.
She was never as mean as her mother.
She looks like, you know what she looks like in that picture?
Okay.
The woman from
And this would be, I'm sorry.
Oh, really?
This is Regina's naturalization papers.
And in the film, Throw Mama from the Train, she looks like her.
She was 53 years old at that time.
Yes.
What is this? That's
This is Grandpa's.
We're on. Welcome back to the Mishbucha tapes. This is the second tape at Helen Solomon's house, 1263
Ranchland.
Ranchland Road. We didn't mention the address last time. And we're continuing on with some more pictures and a few added thoughts that we didn't have when Aunt Esther and Aunt Helen were here. Uncle Nobody. Okay, the picture that we have right now is that of Jake Solomon. We think probably very close to the time he came over to the United States. And we also have his naturalization paper. Let's see if we can pull back just a little bit on this.
So to Billy?
You'll see on Grandpa Jake's, they have him down as
Hi.
Czechoslovak Republic,
Oh,
And what year did he?
43, I think it says.
you're, well, we're
Well,
close.
47.
We're doing pictures now.
47,
47?
yeah.
Gary, Merlin, and
That
the
can't
rest
be
of
right,
the
'cause it
family
doesn't
is
have-
wasting away, and they want to know if you can come back and do pictures afterward.
Nope.
It doesn't have
No.
Mort on there.
Doesn't have what?
It doesn't have Mort listed. It has you and Aunt Helen, or you and Aunt Esther, but it doesn't have Mort listed.
He wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
Gary,
So it had to be before 28. He was born in 28.
excuse me.
Okay.
They are wasting away over there.
Well, tell him another half an hour. Okay, we have another picture.
Let me
No.
wipe that off.
Go ahead.
Can I wipe that off?
Sure, what do you want to? Oh, yeah. Let me get a good shot of that. That's in Helen's hand.
Just
Wiping
save
off the
spots, of course.
Oh,
I'm
Tell them to
sorry.
go ahead and eat if they want to. That's okay. You
there's
got,
only two of them there.
well, then tell them to wait.
Who's the
Yes,
two?
Merlin and
The kids.
the kids, yeah. Please talk to me. Gary, please talk to me.
Okay.
So you can put on.
Okay, another picture of Jake Solomon in the early years, dressed as a cook, perhaps chef. Okay. Okay, and Helen, can you?
That
Give
is
us a hand on this one.
Jake Solomon and his brother Louis. His brother Louis, who had 6 children.
Do you know their names?
Yes. You want their names? Sam, Max, Helen, Ruth, Bessie, and Dora, and Rose. 7 children.
Just remembered one.
Yeah.
And do you want to tell us anything about him?
He was a little bit of an alcoholic.
So like being a little bit pregnant?
Yeah, he did, and he came to live with us every once in a while. When his wife would throw him out, he'd come to Grandpa and Grandma and stayed with us until things cooled off, and then he went back and produced another child, and
And then threw him out of the house
then
again.
he threw him out.
Okay.
What did he do?
What did he do for a living? I really don't know what Uncle Louis did. This is Grandma and a neighbor lady, Mrs. Polachek, that lived next door. And you can see Grandma's quite young there. I really can't.
She's on the right.
Grandma Regina is on the
She's
right.
on the right.
And what street was
And this was on Cedar Avenue. This is where my brother was born, in this house, the steps of the house that he was born in. And we lived there for quite a few years.
Okay. Do you know where this was taken?
This was taken on Kimberly.
And this is again Regina and Jake
That's
Solomon.
Regina and Jake, and it's during the right immediately after the Second World War, I think, because it was taken at the same time as another picture we have here that shows my brother in a photograph.
Okay.
That's this picture here, if you want to take that next. That's one I was just talking about.
And tell us about the occasion here. What was?
Well, we used to get together for holidays, and I think that was probably one of the holidays. We also had a lot of guests that aren't in there, but we used to have friends come over and celebrate the holidays. And it might have been either Thanksgiving or it wasn't a Jewish holiday, I'm sure, because we wouldn't have had had cameras and stuff, but
Okay.
probably the first holiday when.
And you wanted a full family picture, so
That's why we took the picture with my brother.
And do you know where this one was taken?
That was also taken on Kimberly.
Okay. And
That was taken a little bit before, and I don't know where that, I think that was taken on Elgin. And that was the same as the
Similar
other one.
picture.
That was on Kimberly.
Wait a minute, that is the same picture. The
Is it
dress.
the same picture?
It's the same picture.
no, it's not the same.
Well,
Oh, it's the same as this one.
smaller
That's right.
Yeah, if that's,
That's right.
sorry
Smaller
about
version,
that.
Okay.
Okay,
See,
but
this one,
this,
this one might be
Like-
person.
okay, yeah.
This is a
okay.
larger picture.
Yeah.
There's a good picture of Grandpa Jacob.
Grandpa Jake and Grandma Regina.
And
I don't know who the baby is. The baby is either Gary or Steve. And that was taken in Akron.
I think Natalie said that was Gary.
Gary, could have been.
Because I think when we were over here looking at these before, I think she said that was Gary.
Oh, yeah?
She recognized the boots.
Oh,
the booties, I just got a shot of the
Okay.
booties. Okay. Yeah.
This is the one, this is on Berkeley. That was taken in the doorway of our Berkeley home.
3327 Berkeley, Cleveland Heights.
Yeah, that's Steve's telephone number now.
Is that right? Grandma and Grandpa, and Aunt Helen in the background.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to bring up to date some more pictures of Grandma. This is on what occasion, Aunt Helen?
Well, her 90th birthday, and here you could have both of these if you could put both of them on. This is really the extension of the other one.
And also Marilyn Solomon and Mark Solomon, and down here's Stephanie Solomon. And another 90th birthday picture. Okay, and the most recent that we have.
Last month it was taken, and it was taken at Menorah Park, when Grandma turned in February. Grandma turned 96.
And Menorah Park is a nursing home where Grandma stays. Okay. Okay, we'll be back shortly with some more pictures.
Right. Well, let's see. What do you want?
So your knee?
Okay,
All right. Is that
we're on. Now, tell us who these people are.
okay? These are nephews of Grandpa Jake's. They are Shmuel, and he's to the right, to the left,
Okay.
and Ignatz is to the right. And their wives. Heike is Shmuel's wife.
Heike.
This one, and that one is Deborah.
And this is.
that is Ignatz Shlomowitz.
Okay.
And this is Sam Shlomowitz.
Now you tell me about what's interesting about these people.
Well, we became aware of them right after the Second World War when Mort located them at a camp in, I think it was in Germany, I'm not too sure. And we started to correspond with them, and they asked for us to bring them out. But we contacted the HIAS, which is an organization of some sort that did that type of thing, and they did bring them out. Shmuel and Heike, Shmuel had been married before and lost his family, but Heike had never been married before. And they got married at the camp. And Mort visits them quite often, and we corresponded with them, as I said before. And now they have 2 children.
He should mention he lost his family in the Holocaust.
He lost his family in the Holocaust, yes. Originally, his wife, and I think he had 4 children, and they were lost in the Holocaust. And this is Shmuel, another picture of Shmuel.
Okay. Now, what do we have here?
Well, this is a real old picture. That's my grandma. Her name is Sarah, and that's Grandma Regina. And on the left side is Helen Solomon, and on the right side is Esther Solomon Goldstein.
20.
Yeah. So here is Helen. Here is
Sarah Handler and Regina Solomon and Esther Solomon. Goldstein.
And this was taken around.
And this was taken in the, I think about the 30s, somewhere in the 30s. Okay, now this is Ignatz that you saw in one of the pictures.
This is
No, that is, those are his sisters. His sister Elia.
Oh, okay.
And his sister, and Elia is
Here?
this one, and Sarah is that one.
Okay.
Above Sarah is her husband, I don't remember what his name is. David is Lia's husband, the one above Elia. Jacob is, Jacob Seidner is Sarah's husband, and Leah Naft, David Naft is the next one. The baby is, I don't know what Sarah's oldest child is. That's him.
Okay. All right, and now we're going to bring in
This is Grandpa's side
We're
of
going
it.
to bring in some
No.
of Grandma's side.
Right,
Regina Solomon's family.
right.
It's a very old picture, obviously.
This is Aunt Lena with Arthur and Margaret. This is, I think this was when they returned the second time from Europe. This is my Aunt Rosie's daughter. Her name was Margaret also, and she married I don't know if he was a rabbi or a shechet or what he was, something in the Jewish faith. They were very ultra-Orthodox, and they were also killed in the Holocaust.
Now this picture then was from where? Was it from, were they here
It was from
sometime?
Europe. They were never here.
I see, this
It was
is from
from
Europe.
Europe.
Okay. Another very beautiful old picture. Let's.
This is my Aunt Lena, my Uncle Joe, that's my mother, Regina Solomon's brother, the youngest brother. There were two brothers. And his two children at that time, Arthur and Margaret.
Looks like the third one's on the way.
Oh, I bet that's why she's wearing that.
Yeah, she definitely looks pregnant.
Yeah. Oh, there's an interesting story about them that I have forgotten to say. Uncle Joe only met Aunt Lena twice before they were married. Met her, and he told her, next time I come back, I want a yes or a no, and
she said yes.
And she said yes, and that was it.
That's interesting.
There's an important person in the family.
Yeah, that's my Uncle Sam and my Aunt Sadie. And this was taken in California where they moved after they gave up their business here and went into the dry cleaning business with their daughter and son-in-law in California. She just passed away recently.
And a similar picture to one we've seen
Yeah,
here.
this is Uncle Joe and Arthur and Aunt Lena. It almost looks like a European picture. I don't know. That one must have been before Margaret was married. I don't know. Margaret was born. This is my Aunt Sadie and my Uncle Sam when he still had some hair, I guess. Yeah, this must have been a wedding picture, I would think, or an engagement picture. At that time, they took pictures, for engagement too.
Is that a medal she's wearing, or is it just a brooch?
I think it's a brooch. I don't know why she would get a medal.
I don't
She married him, didn't she? Okay.
Now,
Yeah, we talked about this guy a little bit.
yeah,
earlier.
this is Art Handler. He's the one that was a basketball player and almost a professional basketball player. He is Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam's son. And he's married to Lena Dushan, or married Lena Dushan, and they have one child, Barbara. And this is my Aunt Sadie and Uncle Joe a little later in life. This is taken in Akron, actually. He was in the junk business and did very well. And this is my Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam in California, and this is when I went out to visit them. The one and only time I ever was out.
There's two Aunt Sadies?
No. Why? The one that...
This was Aunt Sadie.
You said that was Aunt Sadie and Uncle Joe.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is Aunt Lena.
All right.
I
Okay.
get the two of them mixed up
There's
sometimes.
So back to this picture. That's Aunt Lena.
That's Aunt Lena, not Aunt Sadie
Okay.
and Uncle Joe.
And this.
Now this is Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam. And this is when I went to visit them in California. 1948, I think it was. And this is Aunt Sadie with the little boy that died. He didn't survive that.
And this one in?
Yeah. This
Okay.
is Aunt Sadie and Uncle Sam's daughter Esther and her husband David and their son Alan, who is now an attorney and has two sons of his own. Okay?
That's all for that level, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll be back with some more pictures shortly again. Okay, we're back with the next generation, as Aunt Helen likes to call it, picture. And here's a picture of Mort Solomon's, perhaps his Army
Oh, it's my
picture
hand.
early on in boot camp, maybe. And let's see if we can.
Get 'em out.
I'm gonna get our dad's pictures.
There he is. And another large photograph, an older one. And Helen, tell me a little bit about this.
Oh, this was when Uncle Sam opened up a pop factory on Hayden Avenue after moving from Huff Avenue. He had a grand opening and asked his friends and relatives to come in costume. And I guess because it's an international theme of some sort, so.
And this person right in the middle here is Esther.
Yes, and
Are you in this one?
no, and there's Margaret
Oh, there's Margie down here.
and Bill. Bill here and
Margie.
Margie there.
And Bill.
Oh, Bill here and Margie
that's right.
there.
Okay.
Okay.
I would assume the product they were introducing had something with White Crown. That was the name of it, right?
It was.
Looks
It looks like a beer, then, doesn't it? But I don't know if they have it.
Now, here we go.
That you know.
This is my father's fourth grade.
Third, I think it says in the back, doesn't it? Or does it say
There
fourth?
are names on the back of this.
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade, Mrs.
okay.
Rothgary, room 204, October 26, 1938.
It's taken at Oliver Window Homes, I think.
Yes.
And where am I?
Yeah.
There's my father right there.
A little earlier picture of your dad.
Okay, I think we'll bring this down here now and we'll get some smaller pictures.
Oh. Did he take this one already?
So you're going to have to come just a little bit. There you go, thank you.
He didn't? These are also of his dad.
Okay, there's Mort at a very early age.
You didn't take this one?
No.
Or it was
Do you have any other or older ones? Yeah, these are good intermediate ones. And where was this?
They was taken on either on Elgin or on Kimberly.
Okay. And here is Helen and Mort.
Also on Kimberly or Elgin, I don't know which.
And age 9, I remember seeing on the back of this picture. And, okay.
I don't know how old he was on that one. These were him as baby,
Let's
also.
go back.
One with Esther and one with Helen.
There's Aunt Helen. And Mort,
These
as a
ones
baby.
too good. I bet he
And-
can't. Maybe he can't photograph these.
And
They're just
Esther.
not gonna
Yeah,
come out
those
right
Huh? They won't photograph. These won't photograph, will they?
Yeah.
Okay, so you might as well finish with what you have
Okay,
here.
over here.
You have a camera in your
Taking a
hand?
picture, right, or getting ready to, or just having. And pants that don't exactly fit just right.
Don't grow into them.
Since he was
And-
always
Getting a little bit bigger than Mom and Dad. And a jacket made for 2. And the proud serviceman. And another.
This is right after he went into the service.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to do this next, or do you want to do Aunt Esther and
Let's go on,
my...
Esther. Let's stay with the older ones here. Yeah.
That's Aunt Esther when she was just a little baby. A story Grandma always tells us is that she couldn't buckle her shoes. She was such a fat little baby.
Fortunately, Aunt Esther isn't here to defend herself any longer. She's left for home, and the 2 sisters together. A great picture. Back off on this a little bit.
You look terrified in that picture.
I probably was. I was always...
It sounds to me like Aunt Helen was spent most of her childhood terrified.
Well, everybody threatened me with a hot poker and that I was going to
And
die.
Esther's got a look on her face like, I'm
I
gonna get her as
just
soon as this picture's
did
over.
that, yeah.
And
She always got her hands in the back of your throat.
You notice that? I don't know if this one will show up. It's kind of blurred.
No, that was
I don't think that one will.
No? Okay.
Too.
this would be, what, around 1950 or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the fellow that took that worked with Aunt Esther.
Back down we go.
Now we have to go for the next generation, the children.
Jake, Regina, Helen, and Esther.
Well, one of those should go with your mother's.
With moms, yeah. You
Yeah.
wanna
Do what? What do I have for with your...
No.
Gary and
Oh, that
Lori
one?
and
that's
Steve
it.
really should go.
Yeah.
Oh, then I shouldn't give them any pictures from us? Okay.
Okay, now who are these people?
Okay,
Where's that pencil?
here's something.
That's good enough.
Okay.
Just use this.
This is my Aunt Sadie from California. Next to her in the back, to her left, her right, is Grandma Regina. No, honey, that's Aunt Sadie.
Yeah, this is
This is Grandma Regina.
Right.
Aunt Sadie, Aunt Sadie, Grandma Regina,
Right.
and Mrs. Dorman. This is my cousin Belle's mother-in-law.
Okay.
This is Grandma Molly,
All right, Molly.
and that's Aunt Lena from Akron. Okay?
All right. And the 2 sisters again. Where were you here? Do you know?
No,
On vacation somewhere, looks
I'm
like.
sure.
Well, it's historic, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know. This is
Yeah, this is
the Cohen side of the family, and of course the children. And
Natalie Solomon, Molly Cohen, and Nate Cohen, and Mort Solomon, and Gary Solomon, and Steve Solomon.
Correct.
That was there.
Did you want
Okay,
this
yeah.
picture?
Yeah.
Oh, this one too?
Mm-hmm. Helen, whichever. Here's a picture of my mother, Natalie Cohen.
I love that
And this
one.
was a picture that was taken in the house that my father, Mort Solomon, met her, I guess, right in front of this house.
Then I won't
Before they
give
were
any of these
married,
pictures.
soon after they met, I understand. And perhaps a few months
We'll give 'em this one.
thereafter, the cheesecake picture. I'll need back a little bit of this. Get it all in. To Mort, August 1st, 1949, from the Bathing Beauty, that day at Coney Island. What a day it must have been. Okay,
Okay, these here.
back to Berkeley. And Jake Solomon, Helen Solomon, Natalie Solomon, Gary Solomon, and Steve Solomon.
Love those sunglasses.
We did?
Hmm?
We wore sunglasses?
Oh, no. Natalie has.
Oh, yeah.
No, those are her regular
Those are
glasses.
her regular
Yeah,
ones.
they just
yes.
look like they should have been.
She was, yes, she was known for it.
Didn't ZZ Top write a song about those?
And this is Esther Solomon. What is that on her head? A hat or a crown?
It's a flower.
A flower.
She wore her hair in a coronet braid at that time, or coronet they called it, but that's what she
Well,
wore.
this was an incredibly scary story. The boat you see coming in on the right nearly hit Aunt Esther and killed her. There were people waving her away at all times while she was smiling to take this picture as the boat was coming in. And as you can see, stopped just inches short of what could have been a disaster. And Helen Solomon again. This flower was on Helen's head, but must have slipped off.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it was supposed to be. Okay. And another shot of Helen and Esther. A little more recent. I believe that was
At
at
Grandma's 90th, isn't it?
this might have been Grandma's
Yeah.
birthday
Grandma's
party.
90th.
1307 Orchard Heights Drive.
No, I think it was here.
Oh,
That's
wow.
that was
Here's a picture of Bill Goldstein and Esther Goldstein and what would be about a 9-year-old Lori Goldstein, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Taken about the same time.
Your mom won't have this.
Well, give some of the stuff to her.
Mort Solomon, Natalie Solomon, Gary,
What happened?
Steve, and Lori Solomon.
We're doing it, Natalie, so that you can,
Oh, sure.
intermingle your pictures.
Okay, then
Okay.
you don't want this
No,
one?
it's not necessary.
All right.
Gary didn't even know he was president of the Junior Red Cross. So.
The Junior Red Cross is right. Okay, that should do it
that's
then.
it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I thank you. I thank you for